Good insert time of the day here. You're doing well. Got the standard few updates in the topic. Maybe a little fly by the seat of my pants today. It's kind of a lot of things run through my brain as it pertains to role-playing games. And when it seems to consume a lot of what you're thinking about, if you're not doing something or focusing in on anything specifically, your mind wanders. You can go down a few different paths. Some have been hashed to death. And, do you really want to talk about the same kind of topics? That often, kind of over and over. Aside from role-playing games, it was unfortunate to see Taylor Hawkins from the Foo Fighters passed away. I'm a fan of the Foo Fighters. I think many of us have man crushes on Dave Grohl. At least I think I do. But on a South American tour, I believe. Really, 50 years old. Some speculation on the cause of death. Hope the speculation is wrong. But morning, Roger. Jim, good morning. Just mentioning that the main topic today might be I might need some help. I might need some heavy lifting from you guys. I was thinking about maybe how to do pocket encounters. What is a pocket encounter? Pocket encounter is something you keep in the back pocket. Depending on how the scenario is progressing, are there things that you can keep in mind that you can throw out in front of the party? In case they kind of take a left turn. So we'll see. Hope everybody's doing well. Victor, morning. You guys grabbed a cup of your favorite Joe, or, if you're in Slovenia, Nubis it's probably been afternoon and morning for at least 8 hours. Hey, William, good morning. Welcome. I figured out my Aaron, good morning. Morning, neighbor. Aaron, you're not a Gary Con guy? Gary Con is going on as I speak. I'm trying to get through it with a little bit of FOMO because, it's a great convention. I really like the location, the venue, I should say, right? Lake Geneva is nice, but the venue is really nice for a convention just because it's in a resort. So if you get in the main resort, you never have to leave. Hey, Quincy Jackson. Hey, morning. Blake, morning. Or I suppose is it still morning for you? Like late? You were probably, earlier than me? So it's probably late in the evening for Blake. Yeah. My buddy's in Hawaii, and I think it's like a 4 or 5 hour difference. So you being in Australia, it's probably another 4 or 5, right? So it's about midnight the next day. Roger playing in GaryCon virtually. I have a question for you, Roger. You're probably not running anything here. Here's the thing. BSRCon is a little bit. I think if I do BSRCon again online virtually, I would probably, if the person's only going to run games, not play, just strictly Game Master, I wouldn't charge a fee. Just because most of us can usually find a game to run. Like, we could probably run a virtual online game almost every day of the week if we had a game group or a virtual convention or whatever the case is. So the reason I didn't want to run something for a GaryCon virtually is I'll have to be honest, I didn't want to spend money for the experience. I mean, I loved BSerCon, and some of the feedback that we got. I mean, there's people on our Discord. So for some of you that don't know, I'm the co-host of Gaming in BS, and we've got a Discord. And some of them have said, like, I really liked BSerCon. It was a virtual con. I've attended other virtual cons, and it didn't seem as well, I won't say what they didn't seem, but they appreciated some of the social interactions we had on our Discord. So people in between games would drop into our lounge and just kind of hang out, and we'd have 12 people at some point, just kind of talking about gaming and what's going on or whatever the case is. And I have been to, have I been to a virtual con? I'm sure I have. I ran, was it for GaryCon? I don't remember. I know I ran one. And it was like people showed up, you ran your game, and it was kind of done. That was it. So for GaryCon, I was asked to help if I could help, but I didn't really want to commit to anything. And I think the virtual tickets, I could be wrong. I thought they were like $20, but I would run a game for $20, but not really get, the reason I go to GaryCon, the big one, is the people I don't get to see. It's kind of like that a lot of people go to Gen Con or Origins because it's a big convention where they know they'll see a lot of their friends that they don't get to see other times of the year, throughout the year, except for this one event. So we have Brett and I were pretty frequent goers of GaryCon. And I think it's still hard to get rooms there. So they must be doing fairly well this year. They're streaming online. Caught a little bit of some of the streams. Satine Phoenix got married there Thursday, I believe. So congratulations to her and her husband, whose name escapes me. I think it's Jameson, maybe. So it is fun because you don't have to leave the building if you get into the main lodge. And, if you sit in the lounge all day, people walk by and see you. They come by and stop and talk. I was going to try to get down there for maybe a day, but I don't think that's going to happen. And today's Saturday. So, Dorigo, good to see you. Joe, good to see you. So just playing, not run anything. Gotcha, Roger. Got wrangled into playing by one of the players from my BSerCon Deadlands game who was running a Savage World Rippers game last night. Very nice. GM should always get perks at cons, especially if that's price discounts. For sure. And I think looking back at BSerCon, I don't think we had just a GM. Even myself, who didn't plan on playing anything, got into Harrigan's Rangers of the Middenvale game. But I think next time I run it, as long as the person is only going to game master, if they're only going to game master, you get free. So there you go. That's what I'm going to do, because it doesn't make any sense to charge a game master unless they're going to play in other games. So, well, should we get to some of the details of what's going on in RPGs? A virtual ticket was $5, no swag. Oh, okay, that's not too bad. But that's now, did they charge you per event? Or because GaryCon does the gold, silver token thing on tabletop events. So you get, with a badge, you get one gold event, one silver event, and then unlimited, I guess, aluminum events. So the gold is like a premium. Although I don't think they have premiums on the virtual thing. I can't imagine they do. But I mean, you're also donating the proceeds to charity, so it's not like you're taking all the money for yourself. True. Yeah. Well, that's a good point. Yeah. Charity. I've been thinking of something. So going back to charity, Roger's kind of flicked my ear a little bit. We'll see. I was thinking of, I'm thinking of a lot of things, and people might roll their eyes when I come up with another idea that I don't execute on. That's okay. I've come to terms with myself. One of the things I was talking about or thinking of was a streaming channel. Not a big deal, right? Streaming channel, yeah, so big deal. They're actual plays, yeah, okay, whatever. And maybe getting a group of folks that would participate in that, either running their games and players and everything, or rotating cast or something like that. Relatively short scenarios, maybe 2 sessions or two sessions long. And then if there was money involved, donating it to a charity. Different charity maybe every time. I don't know if it would be the same one. Maybe it's a rotating thing through who is participating in the group. I have a name in mind, but I don't want to divulge that, because if I say the name, then might give things away. But there's a little unique spin. It's kind of the anti-commercial spin on actual play. I find there's 2 types of actual plays. Specifically as it relates to Twitch and streaming. There are the folks that you obviously that are like, hey, they're inspired somehow to put out an actual play, whether that's like, hey, we want to be the next Critical Role, or we want to just play games, have fun, and share it with the world. And Glass Cannon Network, I listened to the interview with Joe O'Brien, if you haven't, at Third Floor Wars. Craig did. Go over and check that out if you haven't. But that's how they started. And they're a juggernaut, man. I knew about Glass Cannon Show, or the Glass Cannon Network, but I didn't, I hit up my buddy Eric Frankhouse, and we were kind of talking. I'm like, how do these streaming things work? Like, how do they get the people on there? Do they pay them? Do they just volunteer because they want to get like exposure to maybe land a TV show? Like what, because some of them are a lot of them are like aspiring actors, actresses. I guess actress isn't a thing anymore. Everybody's an actor. And he's like, yeah, they pay theirs. And as a matter of fact, if you listen to that interview, Joe was a talent agent for casting like Broadway shows in New York. So he knows like how to recruit talent, specifically in show business. And, with that, there's a union with many of those things. And I even talks a little bit about how it's kind of a challenge to put out a quote unquote casting call for Glass Cannon, because he dealt with like union, and the union's like, it's a weird kind of space, because it's very easy to say, oh, you're hiring an actor. There's a script. There's a part that they're playing. There's screen time. And then you pay them. Well, when you are playing a role-playing game or actual play, there is no script. So then it gets into this weird gray area of, are they really acting? And I don't think it's a matter of whether the union is up for allowing it. It's if they fall under the union terms, well, then there's certain things you have to do as an employer as you cast them into your production that you have to adhere to. But when you're not when you're not like script, film writers, producers, directors, it doesn't fall under the same category necessarily. But anyways, going back to my thoughts on this group of actual play folks is some people love Critical Role, and some people don't really care much for Critical Role, and then there's some that hate Critical Role. I think that's pretty much safe to say about almost anything. But there is for it's a weird dynamic sometimes when we choose to dislike something. It could be like back in the day, you chose punk music because punk was the antithesis of they were the counterculture. You weren't for the sellouts. You weren't making music to get rich or famous. It was about the cause, or sticking it to the band, or whatever it was, right? And then when people would get like not a record deal, but a major label, or they'd go on, like they became commercialized, so to speak, people would lose that. Lose the passion for who they are, whatever. Like sell out. They sold out. I liked them before they were sellouts. I liked them before they were played on the radio every hour on the hour. Oh, you haven't listened to that one? Oh, that's because you're like, you're a new fan. You don't know their old stuff, right? There's this like weird dynamic almost in anything, I'm sure, right? Like you just haven't been on RPGs, definitely. Like, yeah, you haven't been around since the beginning, and blah blah blah. Oh, you don't know that? Oh. So I was thinking it would be more of not a counter to the Critical Role, but I mean, with their success comes a different perspective. It comes with different fans. And it comes with different things that they have to think about that they probably never had to before. And some of those are good and some of those are bad. For example, they're like the highest grossing stream on Twitch, which is saying something because there's a lot of people streaming on Twitch. I think what they make $9 million from Twitch in 1 year. That's a lot of money. They had one of the highest RPG related Kickstarters. Millions of dollars. So it becomes more of a business. So with this thing that I'm thinking of is, yes, it would be nice to grow and get big and everything, but it's almost more of a, well, here's another thing I'll elaborate on with Critical Role. And this isn't a knock on Critical Role. It just is kind of what it is they're all voice actors. I think they're every single one of them. I want to make sure I'm quoting some facts here. Very talented group. They obviously are all friends, but some people will look at, there's the Matt Mercer effect. So people will view Matt Mercer and the Critical Role folks, and they'll look at that and say, I want to play in that game. And so when they go back to their dungeon master, or they try to get a group together and it's not to the same level, they're disappointed, and they think that every DM should be like Matt Mercer, and Matt Mercer's got some talents that some of us don't have, and that's okay. So, but some people feel slighted from that because they'll get called out, and sometimes if I were to sit down and I had a group or somebody come to me and say, hey, we want you to DM, or I want to get a game group going, will you DM? Sure. And then I run a game and we get things going, and people are like, oh, this kind of sucks because you're not like Matt Mercer. That would be that would miff a few people, I think. I don't know Matt, never met him. I haven't met any of the Critical Role people. But Matt online, his persona seems to be genuine in it. He tries to encourage anybody to play. And that you don't have to make funny voices to be a good dungeon master or a good player. And he does seem to foster a very positive outlook on the hobby, despite kind of the position that he's in, which sometimes gets slammed for a lot of reasons that he probably doesn't deserve, or even the cast deserves. Anyways, going back to my point. something in my head was like, well, if you could kind of be the counter to Critical Role, you could pick up some fans that might not be fans of Critical Role because they become popular. As a matter of fact, there's some people that are like, yeah, I used to like them in season 1 or 2, but now that they're doing this, I'm not interested. So it's kind of it's a weird thing. Like one book about this kind of human nature type of thinking, is there's a book called Predictably Irrational. And it's how the mental human psyche does things that doesn't make sense. For example, I think one example is if I pulled up in a $75,000 car and came to you to sell it to you, and you don't know the motivation. Maybe I just tell you, I need some money, I need to unload it, and I'll sell it to you for $5,000. Your initial instinct is, what's wrong with it? And I say, there's nothing wrong with it. Literally, $5,000 and it could be yours. It's the same reason if you're sitting on the street and you're giving $5 away, why some people will take it and why some people will not. It's a great book. It's really crazy. And you're like, oh my God. And sometimes it's like, oh my God, I'm that guy. Or I'm that woman, right? Holy cow. So going back to Critical Role, game group, actual play, if I tried to get that off the ground to see, it would be kind of pitched as, hey, we're not voice actors. We're just regular people playing role-playing games. And this is how we do it. And it's kind of not an unfiltered, but it's, some of us play like this. Some of us play like that. We all have different backgrounds. We're not all this type of person, that type of person, this type of person. And I think there's a lot of actual plays that are just that, right? They don't tout to be something that they're not. But I think some are very much, and there's a group, right? There is a known group on Twitch, and a lot of them kind of float between different shows a little bit. Gary Con is one of those. If you go to the Gary Con channel, you're going to see certain people in those live streams, and they're there for a particular reason. There are not a lot of average, like, who's that guy? Who's that guy? And the reason is they want to pull in an audience, right? Most of them are game developers, or maybe they're industry experts, designers, whatever. Some of them are just internet personalities. Like Satine, she has done design, right? She has put out a book and been a DM's Guild. Can't remember the ranking thing. Not the ranking thing, but they had a DM's Guild affiliates. I don't remember what they're called, but people that would write kind of premiere content with kind of the stamp of approval. But anyways, so that would be my approach, is like kind of to show like, like purposely, legitimately put it out there. Like, hey, average players, but we're going to do it and show you how we play, and it'll be fun. And that's the point of it all. Having said that, if it did get off the ground and started to garner revenue, one of the other things is somebody would just point and say, well, you're just trying to do the same thing that Critical Role is doing. You're trying to achieve that pinnacle, or that maybe exposure or financial component comes into play. And I think what I would do is donate a lot of that to money. So that's where the charity piece comes in. We'll see. And it could start out with just some of the games that I'm running limited runs for, and then stream them and say, hey, this is kind of the deal. And I don't know if I do it under this channel or another channel, but that's what I'm kind of thinking. It's got to be done well. Like, I don't want to do a complete sound studio and a set, but I think it's got to be presentable. Like, I'm not a big fan of going on Twitch myself and watching people play with just Zoom, which you can do. There's nothing wrong with it. I just think that if you're trying to do it but Sean, you're not trying to be like Critical Role. Then what's the point? Like, why would you want to do the production value? Because I don't think the production value is the whole be all end all. It's kind of like, hey, I want to have an amateur radio show, but sound like shit. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So you got to have it, I think, be relatively decent. I'll say. Now, we may not have like our own sound stage or something along those lines, but that's okay. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Who knows? Because our hobby is weird. Like, it's just strange. I've said that once before. I'll say it again. It's just weird. We don't have a lot of people in it. It's very, 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 very small. That's why nobody makes money in it, is because it's not movie or video game level. There's just not enough people in it to support it. So you get these writers, designers, and artists that are just like making a pittance, unless you're working for Wizards of the Coast, maybe. So yeah, there you go. Just another thought in Sean's brain. Yeah. Anyways. Jumping in late, but I've never been charged as GM for any virtual con I've run something at, and the GMs got first pick of games before they were open to the public as a perk. Oh, interesting. Good to know. Thanks, Orcus Dorcas. Good to see you, by the way. So, yeah. Roger, Critical Role, and everyone else. Glass Cannon Network, man. Those guys are making, two of their cast members, like, that's what they do full time, I think. And they go on tour. Like, I was like watching, after I listened to the interview, I knew about those guys, but I just didn't know like how big they actually were, which is strange, right? It was kind of like me seeing somebody in the industry who has a podcast that talks about OSR not know about Empire of the Petal Throne and Tecmo, which is another controversy, which I might touch on today. Who knows? Maybe not so much. But anyways, yeah, and then I went on YouTube and saw like their first gig in like LA, and it's like, people paying tickets to go see these guys on stage do a few encounters in like a couple hours. And it was like, wow, that would be fun. I would enjoy that immensely. I say that now until you're like, that's all you're doing. And then it becomes a weird job. So anyways, Blake says, if only you knew someone with recruiting skills. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. That could be a bad thing too, Blake. Blake is commenting on the fact that I recruited for over 10 years. As a professional technical recruiter. Yeah. Anyways, what would that counter to Critical Role be defined as? Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. Like average people playing games, role-playing games, not professional voice. I mean, we could have an actor in a group, but that's kind of just coincidence, right? Like I wouldn't rule out like, oh, you're an actor? No, you can't be in this group then. But there's like a weird, like I know one person in the Twitch circuit, like I don't know if they do anything else. Like that's what they do. They play role-playing games on Twitch on these channels. And I'm like, does she get paid to do that every time? Like, because it's not her channel. Like she gets, and frankly, there's probably a pretty decent movement out in the LA area. That's like kind of that. I don't know. So we'll see. That counter to Critical Role. Counter to that is average people, real. I don't want to say real people because there are of course real people, but I'm saying that there is some folks that just look at them as being Hollywood professionals, and that's not not trying to bang on Critical Role. That is not my point here. But I'm just saying that if you were to look at it as from a counter perspective, you know, I don't know if they ever had intentions of getting to where they are today. I'm sure their ride has been, they look back and go, this is just crazy. It's incredible. The fans, like, it's got to be just something else for them, an experience. For the counterpoint would be just kind of, but see what happens is then you get that big and you get fans and da 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 da. But I think it would just be with the intention of not becoming kind of this big juggernaut corporate. It's weird. It's just weird. Because if it grows and you want it to grow, that's what eventually happens. And then you have to make decisions on like hiring and casting and how it's going to work and what you're going to offer, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Is that what they say? Anyways, Victor says it fell off the back of a truck. Blake says in Australia, it's called tail poppy syndrome. The more popular something is, the more people look for faults. Yeah. But yeah, for sure. In America, it's called being an asshole. Yeah. Yeah. But I think, even without being an asshole, I think that, you know, some people hate the popularity piece. Like, it's the same reason in sports where some people hate dynasty teams. You know, like the little guy, like it's March Madness here in the US, which is the college basketball tournament. A lot of people like the underdog, right? The number one seed, whoever it is this year, you know, Kentucky or, you know, DePaul, whatever. A lot of people are like, I want to see Division III school just take it all, right? Against all odds, right? Because they know the big ones are going to succeed. Another thing, right? Saving Throw show on Twitch. They have rotating casts and GMs. Tom Lommel runs for them, or did. It's been a while. He did. Yep. And I know I have kind of informally met the producer of Saving Throw show. There is a Discord server that is set up for people who do a lot of the production of streams and podcasts for RPGs. I was invited to join that, and one of them happened to be for the Saving Throw show, and you know he's been doing a lot for them. Yeah, and I think he's one of the few people on that server that just does the back end. You know, he's not. You know, a lot of people are like, I wear all the hats. You know, I produce it, I host it, I GM it, I play, whatever. So I'm well aware of the Saving Throw show, and I've met Tom, nice guy. I haven't tuned into a lot of their streams recently. I'm sure they have a pretty decent following. They've been doing it for quite some time. But you know, but also with what I was talking about, like the mission of what I would be trying to accomplish, be very much upfront in everybody's face. Whereas some Twitch folks, like, you know, I don't know if Saving Throw shows like end goal is to become Critical Role, right? We're trying to we want to be partner. That's our goal. And we want to make money. And so we can all do this full time, which is fantastic. Yeah, I don't know. I'm bordering on the thumb in the eye thing, and I don't like that. But anyways, Tony C. Hey, good to see you, Tony. Production value is the reason I can't watch Critical Role. It's too good, which is not an uncommon thing, I think, for some people to comment on, right? Sure. Cut 2 years from now, Sean in his Scarface suit at his desk with a giant pile of OD&D white boxes on his desk, overseeing his RPG streaming empire. You know, if I was 20 or 30, maybe, I'm running out of time. I don't know if I can get there. 2 years, man, you are hopelessly optimistic. Yeah. If only it could take 2 years. Jeez. Say hello to my little friend. He's a kender. If you do what you love for a living, you'll never enjoy another day in your life. Oh, man, that saying. Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of true, I guess, maybe. I don't know. It's all consuming, though, when you think of it that way. Like all the people that have ever been like, who I think very early on in life, there was a person, like, we would complain about NBA or pro football players here in the US making all this money. Like, oh my God, how can they pay that guy $500 million a year on a contract, or, whatever, $500 million over 3 years, 4 years, whatever, hockey, whatever, insert sport, right? But one thing that people that have that mentality don't understand is that you take the entire world and you take the best people in that particular space. That's who they are. They're the best at what they do in the game that they're playing. And that's why they warrant the money. And if they say, and along those lines, if you are the best at what you do, no matter what it is, the money will come. The money will come. Now, if you're the best basket weaver in all of the world, you may not be making, Michael Jordan money, but you could be making the most of any other basket weaver in the world. So, yeah, I don't know if that would be the goal. Like, I don't see how you be the best RPG thing in the world necessarily, because it's so subjective and there's a lot of artistry in it and creativity. So it's hard. That's why I think in artwork, that's why like the starving artist is like a cliche, or the hungry actor is a thing. It's because it's like when you get into the arts, that's not necessarily true, because you could get, they're the best actor in the world because they've got 5 Academy Awards, blah, 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 blah. And so they get top dollar because of that. But it's still, artistry is still a lot of interpretation and personal. It's very personal. So anyways, and it's role-playing games. Like, who's the richest person in role-playing? It's got to be Critical Role, right? Like if you take all the people in the hobby, maybe it's the CEO of Wizards, but I don't know if I would really qualify that individual as the highest grossing individual in role-playing games because of role-playing games. This is like a business. It's like a business manager. I don't know. Like, who is the highest paid? Like, if you had a Forbes 50, the 50 highest income role-playing game personalities, who would they be? I mean, it's laughable because what are we talking? Like, here's, Ken Hite. He's worth an estimated, $60,000 a year for all of his accolades in role-playing game publishing and design. But yeah, Phil says, yeah, and CR is under a microscope. For sure. Well, and now they have to make decisions that they didn't have to really consider before. They're getting a lot of grief about diversity in the cast. And, they didn't start out that way, right? It's just kind of their home group. So they didn't have to sit down and go, well, do we have representation here at the table? I don't know. It doesn't matter. We're playing freaking Pathfinder, which is where they started. And now that they are literally a business, like they have C-level titles, they've made a lot of freaking money. They've got an animated show. It is an operation, and in some situations that that groups like them come into. Some, like even bands, bands or band members, it's not what they got into. That's not what they got into it for, and then they lose themselves. Like, I think sometimes with rockers specifically, they get lost because they start out doing it a specific way. Hey, I love learning how to play guitar. It'd be cool to be in a band and just like jam out all the time and, do gigs at the local bars and the local circuit, and then maybe expand. And yeah, it'd be cool to cut an album, and everything over time changes, and they start doing, big venues and coliseums and multi-album deals. And then they get endorsements and things of that nature. And then it becomes this thing that they never expected or wanted. They just want to play music for people. And then that comes with its own side effects. I don't know. So, Radelk, it's true. I haven't missed a day of work in 8 years. Huh, that's crazy. Blake says, host does not have to be GM. True. Phil says, my favorite Wolverine line from comics, I'm the best at what I do, but what I do isn't very nice. Murder's my business is good. Killing is my business, and business is good. Yeah. All right. See you later, Joe. Thanks for stopping by, buddy. William, good to see you. About a quarter of the way down top 50 list, it's probably just a regular income. if that. Right? These guys, Mike Shea, every time I go to drive through, his Lazy Dungeon Master is always up there. And he, if you write for DM's Guild, or if you write a module for D&D 5e, to kind of use some of the things that are 5e centric, your option is DM's Guild, and you're getting drowned out by everything on there. How do you compete with the flood of that market? With Mike, aka Sly Flourish, I see his stuff, Amazon, his own website. I don't think he has it in DM's Guild because I don't think it fits that model, but he has it on drive-thru, and it's always in some of the top seller lists. He has some pretty decent Kickstarter, but he's not quitting his job anytime soon. I don't think he's not a big cranking out machine. I don't think his style. I don't think he wants to do that. He wants to put out a good product. He's paired up with a lot of people. I think even Matt Mercer, not Matt Mercer, MCDM, Colville, is he working still in the game industry? I've got to imagine he is. Like, I don't know if MCDM and, his YouTube is keeping him independent. So anyways, I think some of those personalities are probably making okay money for side hustles, but I don't know if Matt's quit his day job necessarily. I don't know if any of you know, but Phil says it will be interesting to see who burns out and steps away first. Yeah, I'm talking about Critical Role. Yeah. Or they just, they want to do something else. They've been going for a while now. They had a lull. I just saw an article I think last week we talked about the 2 new shows that they're launching, but also I got to hand it to him. When you make $9 million on Twitch, you get that kind of money rolling around, it changes the dynamic. Joe from Glass Cannon mentioned that on the interview, was like, you go from playing role-playing games with your friends to, hey, we're going to go on tour, and this is kind of not an enterprise. And then you talk about money and benefits and people not losing their job, quitting their jobs to do it full time. It is creates a different dynamic. I was in business for myself with a partner. It was just he and I, and shit, it did not go well, right? So, and that's just 2 of us, and we weren't making any money. Not Critical Role money for sure. Phil, I think Colville is full-time MCDM. Yeah, so he has his YouTube channel. He's got 2 successful Kickstarters that allowed him probably to get really certain distance. Matt always used to promote his books. Like, I think he, I gotta say he's probably wanting to be author, because every time you'd watch his old YouTube, he never had a Patreon. He said the way to support him was go on Amazon and buy his books. So, but good for him for being able to do what he's doing. A lot of controversy regarding the misprint on the Kingdoms in Warfare book. The offered was not well received. Yeah, I read some of that. It's unfortunate, and Kickstarter's a weird beast. We could talk a little bit about Kickstarter. I didn't have it on the agenda. We haven't even kicked off what I wanted to go through, but more pressure on the game if it helps pay your mortgage, for sure, Blake. But going back to Kickstarter, and so for those not in the know, MCDM, Kingdoms in Warfare, right? Strongholds and Followers. I have that one. Kingdoms in Warfare. I think it's late. I think because I tune out of many of my Kickstarters. Like, back it, filter all the updates, make sure I don't miss hey, you got to fill out the survey. But, looking at my watch every day, wondering when it was going to be delivered was just not, that's no way to sit around either. Some people do that, probably drive themselves nuts. So I think it's, overdue for a variety of reasons. But Kickstarter is a weird one. I think even, because I brought it up on our Discord, and people, I know what it was. Gabe mentioned, I don't know if Gabe, you're here today, but Gabe mentioned Tunnels and Trolls or Flying Buffalo having another Kickstarter of something. And I said, I hope this one goes better than Tunnels and Trolls did. It was delayed. Liz got sick. And he's like, oh, really? What are you referring to? And because I think it was pretty vague when I first commented on it. And he mentioned, well, what are you referring to? Can you elaborate? Blah, blah, blah. And so when I was thinking about like his like, hey, can you elaborate? I think I was being more kind of poo-poo, right? Like, well, hopefully their Kickstarter goes, another one for Free League. Free League had a Kickstarter, it might be for the Vaesen, British and Irish versions of or supplements that they're putting out. Somebody posted it, said, hey, you can get in on the late pledge. And one of the things I posted was Kickstarters are great, but they have had troubles in fulfillment. And somebody's like, well, that's because of this or because of that. And I think in the Kickstarter space, there are people that will hold people's feet to the fire. And then there are people that understand and are rational. And then there are people that will defend the Kickstarter no matter what. And then they get mad at people that hold the producers' feet to the fire. Brett was not a fan of the Blades in the Dark Kickstarter. He's talked about it, brought it up. He ended up getting it. It was fulfilled, after Evil Hat helped John Harper. And I think John knows that was a misstep for him. Like, if Craig interviewed John, and I think he kind of did a tongue in cheek, yeah, I'm pretty good at this, but maybe not so much that. Okay. So he's not unaware. But Brett got the books and just tossed it. And with the Colville Kickstarter, for those of you not in the know, they did a huge print run, and like pages, they used the old version of proofs to run like a huge run of these books. So they get them and they unpack them and they page through them, and there's like one page that's half, like half printed, and then it runs into the next one, and it's like it sucks for them because it's a flawed book. I don't think it is terrible from what I saw. I mean, okay, so it's a 2-column book, or maybe it's whatever, and then on one page it's 1 column, and then it flows over and kind of is janky. But I don't think it's like, well, half of it's printed and half of it's blank. So it's a little, I mean, it puts them in a weird predicament. It's already grossly late, like I think Phil said, over a year. And if you criticize them like, hey, this is bullshit, people are like, whoa, hold on a second. You don't have any right to do that. And because Kickstarter, the purpose is to be an incubator for projects. You don't have, it's crowdsourcing, right? Well, in the RPG hobby, it's a pre-order. I mean, it really is. People get in on it. It's a pre-order. They're going to do it if it successfully funds. Yeah, I don't know. And tons of things go wrong. It's like projects that never get completed on time, which I can empathize with firsthand. A lot of things outside your control. I don't know. Where I was going with that. I think it had to do with Kickstarters and kind of saying, hey, be weary. They were late. So my point is if the Kickstarter's funded and there was maybe some questions on fulfillment on a previous one or timing on the previous one, and they do intend in putting the product out in the retail chain, the Kickstarter might allow you to get it for a little bit of a discount. Maybe it's got some backer rewards, goals and things of that nature. But just, I'll tell you what, though, some of those late Kickstarters will really suck the wind out of you. Like Strongholds and Followers, great, but Kingdoms and Warfare, I mean, I might get it, and it could be like the hype is gone. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how MCDM's monster book will fund after this. And you're always going to get those, like, well, that's the thing, right? I could say, great. I'll hold off on backing it, which will impact his kind of bottom line up front. But if he gets here's the thing with Kickstarter, especially with like Matt, he'll put it out there, it'll fund. Like he'll put in a reasonable amount, whether that's, I don't know, $100,000, $20,000, $50,000. It'll go beyond that and it'll get funded. And then he'll make the book, have, rewards, stretch goals, whatever. People will get those. It'll probably maybe come out late. In today's world, who the hell knows? It could be on a freaking cargo ship for a year. Printers could just disappear off of Earth sometimes. I wonder. But eventually it'll be done, and then it'll probably hit the market, the retail chain and distributor market. Even if it's just Amazon, who knows? But I mean, can you get Strongholds and Kingdoms and Strongholds? Kingdoms and Warfare, Strongholds and Followers. Can you get Strongholds and Followers pretty much through Amazon and stuff? I wasn't a fan of the pages in that book. They were really thin, which tells me they're probably trying to get that margin up there a little bit. But anyways, good book. Just wasn't a fan of the page quality. So he'll get it. It'll go into retail, and you can buy it. Also, with the strange cycle of role-playing games, I mean, there's people that haven't played Dungeon World. It's been out for years, 10 years, 11 years. So you could make an RPG and have it not get popular for 2 or 3 years for whatever reason. Maybe Critical Role pulls out some obscure RPG. Could they put a needle in that thing in its arm and all of a sudden now it just skyrockets? I don't know. Because there's nothing wrong with some of these older games. A lot of us play those older games. But anyways. Rdelk, if they can manage, books work better when a lot of work is done. But Kickstarter and late just go hand in hand these days. Yeah, it's like, sure, sure you're going to get this done. By the time it arrives, you and your group could care less or have moved on and onto the shelf it goes. Yeah. But see now, like I got rid of my blades. I had a limited edition print. Like I got that from the Kickstarter, showed up like, okay, read a little bit about it and like, put it on the shelf. That was it. And then I had Craig Shipman run it for us, streamed it and recorded it. It's on YouTube with Brett and I. And Eric Frankhouse is like the cast. And, we played a one shot and it was fun. And it had kind of piqued my curiosity further. And then Kevin Keneally, friend of our show, Patreon, ran Scum and Villainy, which I have. And I'm like, okay, so, maybe I need to give it a fair shake and maybe it'll be something where I kind of grok. I haven't blown it off where it's like, there are some games that if somebody put down in front of me, not 5th edition, but mind you, that I would be like, it's just not my jam. I don't really want to play that. So like Avatar. Avatar is that'd be a good example. Avatar, huge Kickstarter. Have never watched the series. Kickstarter went bonkers. It's going to hit the retail market. I have absolutely no interest in pursuing that. G.I. Joe, role-playing game, probably the Marvel one that comes out. Zero interest. Just, I don't know why. It's not my jam. So, doesn't matter how big a Kickstarter it is. It's not, or how big that market becomes. Maybe if it gets become huge, like, oh my God, G.I. Joe or Marvel's the best RPG game out there. Holy balls. Well, maybe then I'll go, oh, okay. Oh, Sean, you got to really try this, man. It's super awesome. It's freaking crazy, evolutionary role-playing game. It's so fun. It's fantastic. And this is why. Okay, let me run it for you. All right. Okay, it's good. Oh, or it's exceptional. Or, who knows? I don't know. The Avatar RPG came out. That did 1 million, did it? Oh, that was more than that. I think it got mixed reviews. I've heard much hype. Oh, yeah. Haven't heard much hype. Oh, I think they are. I have seen streams running it. So I think there might be some limited, hey, let's get you our beta or alpha version of the game. Blake says, not good enough for me. I don't back a new project until the previous one is fulfilled. Yeah, that's a good principle. That's another thing a lot of people were doing on Kickstarter too. They've haven't fulfilled this one, they kick another one. And then nobody knows, and then you're like, hey, wait a minute. And then people get ticked off because you're calling them to the floor. I don't know. It's such a weird thing. Quincy Jacks says, I wouldn't be a Star Wars. It wouldn't be Star Wars now without the RPG. I don't know. That's a big property, Quincy. Big property. A lot of people don't. I don't know if a lot of people play the Star Wars RPG. I mean, I know they get its fair share, but streaming wise, it's like a blip on the radar. I don't see a lot of it. That's just me. That may not mean anything either. Orcus says a lot of the Avatar backers were the hardcore fandom simply looking to add to their collection and no interest in playing. It's another trophy, more or less. Yeah, that could be for sure. Rdelk says, I'm kind of surprised Cool Mini or not hasn't tried their hand at an RPG. Their board games sell like crazy and have some of the best minis on the market. Oh, Quincy wouldn't be a Star Wars fan without the RPG. Got it. K Rice, good to see it. Don't buy an RPG until it's 2nd edition. Ooh. Wow, really? Yeah, I'm going to pose a question. having said that, is there an RPG that you think, this may be a softball one for some of you, is there an RPG that is out there where the first edition is better than the subsequent editions? D&D might be like an exception, like, because I know because there's the whole camp of the OSR piece that's like, White Box is the greatest version of D&D ever made. Is it though? Maybe. I think there's a little nostalgia around it. I mean, and how do you define best? But in genuine, yeah, like I know Shadowrun, a lot of people like third. I think it's third edition of Shadowrun, more than like fourth or fifth. John, I just died a little inside. No Avatar. Me, Ty? Avatar? No, I've never seen it. I'm not an anime guy. I'm not my cartoons have gone to the wayside. I can't. My wife has watched like Powerpuff Girls and Dexter's Laboratory, and she finds them amusing and shared some of those with my nephew as he was growing up as a kid. I don't know, man. Cartoons did not age well for me. Anime is not cartoons. Yeah, well, tomato. It's like, I just never got into anime. Oh, you got to see Ghost in the Shell, man. It's fantastic. You know, Akira. Maybe. I guess. I don't know. There's a lot of material out there that I don't watch that I've always wanted to watch. I just haven't. It's, there's a few reasons behind that, but maybe D6 Star Wars. Don't know. I like parts of both. Oh, okay. Redauk. D6. That's a different game, right? Like the additions in that game, it's not even a first, second, third, fourth. It's Star Wars WEG, D20 Star Wars, Fantasy Flight Saga, which is kind of D20 anyway, and Fantasy Flight Games Star Wars. Very different games. Gamma World, maybe? Better the earlier editions? Yeah, maybe. Right? Gamma World, like that was kind of wasn't that kind of the incubator for fourth, right? Fourth edition D&D, I think. Gamma World incorporated quite a bit from there. Or fourth incorporated quite a bit from Gamma World, I'm guessing. Ty says, I played Star Wars before it blew up and got stupid costly, then my group stopped. I have over $200 of stuff sitting on my shelves. That sucks. You should sell it, man. Tell me what you got. I bought the 3 core books, and then I bought all the scenarios. I bought the spaceship guide and the gadgets. I think that's the extent. I think I have one splat book for a class by mistake. Like, I don't know why, even know why I bought it. But yeah, you got to watch that. I think Star Wars RPGs were streaming more pre-COVID. Oh, that may be something. Hey, Laramie, good to see you, buddy. All right, let's go. Let's see. What do we got? I'm going to start off with this one. Co-founders of Modifius Entertainment launch Roll vs. Evil. You guys see this yet? So I got notified through a tweet, and I think a lot of publishers were propagating this. Like, I thought it was like Monty Cook Games and a few others. Modifius, obviously. The only thing that I thought was a bit of a bummer was the timing of it all. I think my wife's coming down again. She's probably hitting the thermostat. Too cold. Yep. So Chris and Rita Birch, the co-founders of Modifius Entertainment, have launched Roll vs. Evil, a new not-for-profit organization to support frontline charitable efforts. Funds raised from this not-for-profit will go towards aiding small groups and charities working directly on the front line of battling real-world evils. First campaign will support people of Ukraine as they experience hardships brought on by the recent Russian invasion. Roll vs. Evil charity events will begin the weekend of March 26th, 28th. Hello Today. That's what today is of recording, the 26th. And Supernova Capital and partners will match up to $130,000 of funds raised by these events. Roll20 has a special charity streaming event to celebrate the launch. This event will be featured, blah, blah, blah. Donations to Roll vs. Evil can be made by visiting their fundraising page. So one of the things that they mentioned in this was, where is it? Fundraising page. They were trying to say, like, and if you can't partake in like an event or something along those lines, play in a home game at home and maybe do your own thing. Like, hey, for rerolls, everybody has to pay $1 for reroll. Bring your, it's like a poker game. Bring your wallets, and then play a role-playing game. Chip in some money. I wish I could have done this with the stream somehow this morning, but I didn't really have a plan. And then take that money and then make the donation, is what they were saying. So here's kind of the deal. They mentioned just play a game. Like, let me open this up here. So how can you help? Play a game, online or in person, this Saturday. Why don't you drop a few dollars on the table for playing, a few dollars to re-roll the dice, draw another card. It's up to you. Keep it fun and simple. One member of the group should collect the money and pay it into our Just Giving page. If you're all remote, don't worry. Play online with Roll20. Use this code on Roll20 Marketplace to unlock some free bonus content. So if you're interested in that, here's the free content. And I think it's for a limited time. Oops, I don't know if come on, man. If you can't play this Saturday, just play a game on any day that works and join in when you can. There's always someone who could use help, and we will have many more events. Roll vs. Evil aims to do its best to support as many people as we can. Right, so this is kind of like going back to what I was talking about, getting, a streaming group together. Kind of, similar in vein. I don't know if probably benefit over time if it did make any money to start it as a nonprofit, but I know there's some criteria around that. So a lot of people helping out the Ukraine folks and refugees, and the whole sad situation over there just completely sucks. So there you go. So that's something. And obviously it's just not going to be about the Ukraine necessarily. It's going to probably involve some other efforts, which is great. So a couple people from a reputable game company is kind of like, hey, we want to do something that's good for the world, and we'll title it this, and some matching to be involved, and great. It's good stuff. Our gamers are good-hearted folks, for sure, for the most part, I would say, right? Right, I know. I feel like this should have been marketed before we hear about it today. I agree. I think it just literally just popped up like a day ago, 2 days ago. Like it was, let me rephrase that. It's the first that I had heard of it 2 or 3 days ago, or yesterday. So I was kind of like, Saturday is tomorrow. What are you going to do? But it's going to continue. So that's the thing. There you go. There you go. Next thing, Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel. For 5e fans. 5e fans, yeah, woo! 5e rocks, yeah! So this is going to be the latest. This is the most recent announcement from Wizards of the Coast for their next book. I think it's due out in June-ish. It is produced with help from an entirely person of color cast, authors, things of that name. Why are these all in there? Strange. Must have been the site I pulled it from. Huh. Yeah, for sure. So, where to buy? I think I pulled this right off at Wizards. That's why this stuff is coming in. Here's some of the details. Released date June 21st, 2022. Light Your Path to Adventure, an anthology of 13 standalone adventures set in wondrous lands for the world's greatest role-playing game. 13 new standalone adventures spanning levels 1 to 14. New location on the ethereal plane. Each adventure can be set in any existing D&D campaign setting or on worlds of your own design. Introduces 11 new D&D monsters. I think Mike was talking about this one a little bit, maybe. Mike Shea. And how it's like, grab it. There's a scenario you could pick from. Plop it down. Play it. So that's the big announcement from Wizards. A lot of folks here might not be playing 5th edition, but I think it's something we need to be aware of, and I wanted to call it out. So there you go. Me personally, I'm not on the, I love 5th edition for the record. Love it. I think it's a great, fantastic iteration of Dungeons and Dragons. But I'm just not buying a lot of it right now. So there you go. Next one. My dream is to create the first massively multiplayer tabletop RPG. This is on dicebreaker.com. Tebaru was first revealed way back in 2019 as a highly ambitious meeting of tabletop board gaming and futuristic technology, promising to offer the best of the physical and digital works in a board game console. 3 years on and 5 years since the project first started development, Tuburu has hit Kickstarter with its first game, The Bad Karmas and the Curse of the Zodiac, which shows off the potential of the hybrid platform. From automatically tracking the position of sensor-equipped miniatures on its board and controlling enemies through dynamic AI behavior to calculating the rolls of smart dice. Tuburu is a technological leap beyond the likes of board game companion apps while also attempting to retain the tangible pleasure of moving pieces around a board. Bad Karmas looks to be just the start for Tuburu, which already has additional games set in Vampire the Masquerade's World of Darkness and the fantasy lands of Sword and Sorcery planned for the future, bringing completely different experiences to the platform. Again, another take on what RPGs could do or could become given the advancements in technology. Can we enhance the playing experience using some things here? So I thought it was interesting. We'll see where this goes. During the long 5 years of development and conferences, we have had the opportunity to meet, talk, and deal with the decision makers, the renowned franchises you listed above, and many others. Tebaru is indeed an open platform. The first games are being developed by the Explored team directly, being them on original or partners' IPs. However, we are already onboarding well-known gaming brands to develop their own games thanks to the Tebaru SDK. This is just the beginning. Interesting. It's an ideal system to enhance tabletop games with maps, miniatures, dice, exploration, and storytelling. That's its main purpose. Nevertheless, the system is designed to be modular and is already open to expansions and peripherals. We already have some projects in our lab. This interview. There's a screenshot of it. Yeah. Some of us are going to be like, poo-poo, poo-poo-poo, poo-poo. Pencil, paper, dice, face-to-face is the only true way. You know what? That's okay. It's okay. Hey, this is not going to hurt your game. It's okay. It's all right. It's just a different way. RFID technology. I don't know, it's crazy, man. They do a little interview. These are some of the questions that are behind it. So I'll have links down below to some of these articles that I'm going over. But I thought it was interesting to check out. Here's the digital without losing the physical. Promising next step for hybrid board games. So it was kind of touted as a role-playing game to me, but nonetheless, board game. Yeah, there you go. There you go. There you go. There you go. Next. So this, I'm pretty excited. Secrets of Midnight. So some of you may or may not know that I never played in this world. I have almost all the books. And what I'm referring to is Midnight, the RPG setting, which was done originally by Fantasy Flight Games. There was a first edition, Midnight, and a second edition. And second edition, I think, was to comply with a lot of 3.5. So it was made for 3.0, and then 3.5 came out. They came out with a second edition, or there were some errata, and they re-released it as a second edition. And it's a great, the whole premise is, what if in the Lord of the Rings, the bad guy won? And that's kind of the deal. So it's the land of the shadow. The shadow is the big evil bad. And I've always appreciated the setting and what it attempted to do, though I've never run it or played in it. And it's being made for, I think, 5th edition. And now that Fantasy Flight Games has all the role-playing games in Edge Studios, which is what is producing this, they don't put out a lot of info. I had to go and dig this. And when I went on their Twitter, there was no mention of this article at all. And it was put out on the 16th of March of this year, so 10 days ago. So I'm like ecstatic. I'm like, yes, it's still going and great. And I've got more info, and I'm like pretty jazzed. And so I'm glad I'm bringing this up now. The land shrouded in secret. So as the shadow spreads its influence, it's advantageous to hide its true nature. But as heroes explore the world of Midnight, they're bound to discover deeper conspiracy. What revelations await you in Midnight, Legacy of Darkness? Legacy of Darkness. If they put as much work into some of this that they have in other products, it's going to be fantastic. I think 372 pages, a new edition of the classic Midnight setting. Isridor, that's the bad guy. Is designed as a supplement material to the D20 system core rules. So what they did in the original or previous editions of this is that you need, because of the D20 OGL, they'd say, hey, you need the player's handbook and DM guide to play this. But a lot of it had probably the core stats and abilities, kind of the same roles, but they put in archetypes and some things that are now in 5th edition that really weren't in 3.5 and 3.0. So it was kind of its own little thing, kind of like probably something like Iron Heroes might have done when I think Monty Cook did that originally, if I'm not mistaken. So the Northern Wastes, it talks a little bit about what's going on there. The wildlings, orcs, goblins, giants, even mysterious feral humans known as wildlings live in the shadow of the mad god. This is a game I would run in 5th edition for sure. That thing's fantastic. Isidore is evil, not like a legion warlord is evil, or like the deeds of a person can be evil, or even a fallen demonic spirit is evil. He is the source and manifestation of the elemental darkness of the universe. His intent is the poison that befouls the realms of demons and corrupts the hearts of mortals. He does not simply do things that are evil and therefore can earn the mantle of evil. He is evil, and it is from him that lesser darkness and corruption earn their titles. That's fantastic. There's legates that do his bidding, like they're kind of the priests on the ground. They come into the town, and when they do, it is bad news. Like they're just rooting out anybody that's going to rise up and try to like futz with their boss. There were 3 beings that were corrupted, kind of like the 9 from Lord. Very, very influential by Tolkien, for sure. I don't know, but it's not Tolkien, right? That's kind of the thing. Like I tweeted this earlier this week, where it was like I could play in Star Wars, but like buying the One Ring, I just can't get myself to make the leap into Tolkien's world. I'm not sure why. It may be because the world of Tolkien is the books I've read, The Hobbit, The Fellowship, Return of the King, Two Towers, right? Now I know it's much bigger than that. I get it. There's different ages. I've never read the Silmarillion, right? But I could play in Star Wars, no problem. Just because I think to me in my brain, like some people will contradict me and say that's the reason I don't play in Star Wars, because the story's already been told. So my being in the Star Wars world, the Death Star is going to blow up. The rebels will win. This is going to happen regardless of what I do. So I understand the argument, but for me personally, this would be my Lord of the Rings, I guess, ish world. So I don't know. I am stoked about this one. Find out what other secrets will your players uncover in their journey? Find out when Midnight Legacy of Darkness releases spring of 2022. Spring of 2022? That's like almost now. What? It's going to be fantastic. I will have this. It's going to be great. So, pretty excited about that if you can't tell. When I first found out that they were even doing it, I was like, oh my goodness, yes, right? This is like some people's, like similar to like some people's jazz for if Planescape were to be released, or Dark Sun or whatever. Dragonlance is probably coming from Wizards. It's so weird because I haven't run a game in this world, but I'm still psyched for it because I just like the lore and the factions and things of that nature. And part of it is like I don't know any Midnight aficionados. The groups I've run and played with, they kind of know this game or they've heard about it. I mean, even Brett, I was like, have you ever heard of Midnight? No, what's that about? And this was a few years ago, and he ended up picking up, I think, a copy at one point, or maybe a PDF. And I think he threw it aside. It wasn't something he was going to probably jam on. But he hadn't heard about it, which is nice because then you got to get then you start getting into even Eberron. I'm a big fan of Eberron, but you can buy all the Eberron books and read them all as a player. And it's almost like you probably know much more lore in Eberron. And I say lore as in setting, common knowledge, because Eberron to me is almost like a more modern fantasy, right? Like where in the world, as a player character, you are in a more modern world because magic powers things. And so the information travels faster. There's things that allow that to happen. Whereas if you're playing in like Greyhawk, the tone of the game is like everything's far away. It's very, modeled after old Appendix N and even Tolkien for that matter. You don't know what's beyond Bree. So kind of same with this one, where like the players could be dropped into this thing and it's kind of like, well, they kind of know that there's the big bad that's overseeing everything and it's no good, and they're sick of it and they're going to rise up and try to do something about it. And then they meet the different factions, and the races have their own kind of motivations, and there's bad evil agents of Isrador. So yeah. And I don't even think they're going to kickstart it. I don't think Fantasy Flight Games has kickstarted a single game. So I'm going to be like, it's going to be released and then I'll be able to buy it. It's not going to be like Kickstarter coming spring of 2022. Great, sign up for it. 20 updates. Launching, spring of 2023. Actually getting it winter of 2023. So yeah, man. Yeah, we'll see. I am excited. Oh, Sweefer in PA, in the Poconos. Sweefer is on National Lampoon's Vacation. Went out to the East Coast. Laramie, I feel like this should have been marketed. Yeah, mention that. Oops, yeah, catching up here. All right. Matthew. Hey, Matthew. Good to see you, man. Welcome. Woohoo, 5E. All right. Ty, stop it. I thought it was about 6E. No. Description of the city didn't sound very thrilling considering it's an ethereal plane. Hope the adventures are solid. Phil's referred to, I think, probably the Wizards book coming out. Yeah. Chat's moving all over the place here. You know, if I just had it at full screen, I wouldn't have to scroll. After getting Candlekeep Mysteries, I think I'll skip Radiant Citadel. Wasn't really impressed. Yeah, I'd heard kind of through a person and another, you know, who's got some ties to Wizards that some of the more recent books just haven't flown off the shelves as much as some of the previous books. That's all I heard. Don't have any numbers. Don't have any resources to back it up or cite. But that's the rumor. Orcus Dorcas says it's interesting, but at what point does something like this become unwieldy and you are spending more time preparing and keeping the gears moving? Yeah, for the live board, the game piece, the board game, the living board game. Man, I'm glad places are trying new things, but once again, I've been unimpressed thus far. Hey, Joe. Welcome back, buddy. Yeah, I think it is for 5e for sure, Laramie. Yeah, I'm on the bandwagon. Isrador's bad guy. Who is the good guy? Sloron? Come on, Orcus Dorcas. You know you're going to get this thing. Do one of your videos, like unboxing. Come on, man. It's going to be great. It's going to be a good book. Solid, man. Matt says, I ordered the One Ring 2E, and after listening to a review, it sounds way more crunchy than I assumed. Well, so Matthew, my question to you would be, how familiar are you with like Free League and Year Zero Engine? Not all of them model it one for one. Like Symbaroum is completely different. And I don't have the One Ring second edition, but I think some people that have experience with Vaesen, Twilight 2000, Mutant Year Zero, Forbidden Lands, if there is the 6s and die 6 pools, then I don't think the game will come as a surprise. If people are not familiar with those games, Alien is another one, then it might be a little bit of a shock. Part of this for me is that Lotro is an artistic masterpiece. Star Wars is not. Wayne, it's an artistic masterpiece. Star Wars is not. Bold, Wayne. Ty says, that is why I only played in the Star Wars Edge of the Empire games. It has not been told before Mando to tell a story not told. For sure. But there is so much story in Star Wars. There just is. There's so much. You could be a freaking Jedi on the run. You could take it in any era. You know, Old Republic, Jedi Civil War, Sith War. Like there's a lot. The Outer Rim, the Edge of the Empire is Outer Rim, right? It's all Outer Rim. That's never going to change no matter what area you're running, probably. I don't know. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. I do love some Star Wars pieces, by the way. Oh, good. Okay. Good to know, Wayne. You're right. Artistically, maybe Tolkien, and it's like literature, maybe. Or Star Wars is more pop culture. But Blake says, different impression for me. The Midnight Game seemed way more Lord of the Rings inspired than Greyhawk. Oh, for sure, man. For sure. Well, and yes, I see what you're saying, Blake. Yeah. Enjoy playing in the Dresden Files in and out of the licensed RPG because I know the book so well. I love the world and setting. Isn't FFG part of Hasbro? No, it's part of Asmodee. Yeah, they won't use Kickstarter. They'll use their in-house thing instead of Kickstarter like they did with HeroQuest. It's not part of Hasbro. We need to get Sean a second screen so we can track the chat. I have one. That's what I'm looking at. Except I have 3 things on the same screen. I'll have to mess with that. I just want to make sure. I'm good. It's all good. I'll tweak my stuff on my end. Did you talk about Dragon Prince? What's Dragon Prince, Ty? I have not, apparently. Matthew, I don't think One Ring is modeled on YZE. Oh, okay. That I thought Phil mentioned that too. That it's not. Oh, you have read Forbidden Lands. Cool. Okay. Aaron, I picked up the One Ring Collector's Edition, and it's a pretty gorgeous book. I like the rules so far. One Ring 2E is crunchier than Vaesen. Not sure if it is as crunchy as Forbidden Lands. Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, like even Tales from the Loop, right? Probably not as crunchy as some of the other ones, but still YZE D6. 6s are good, 1s are bad. I don't have it in my hands yet, so I can't speak to it. I ordered the starter set, so hopefully a little less crunchy. Third screen. Fine. Whatever, Sweefer. I got a third screen. I got this as a third screen. Well, you can't see it. I should probably get that in place. Maybe. But then my chat's so small. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. Fourth screen. That's all I had for news updates, I think. I kind of scoured around and tried to see what was new. And I even went to EN World. And EN World, like, they had the Kobold's Guide to Game Mastery. And I'm like, wait a minute. Did I just go back like 3 years? 2 years? Because that thing's been out. I have it on audio book. So why is that new? Is that mistyped? Is that... I knew I have and I'm like, oh, I went through my book library, my audiobook library, and it was like Kobold's Guide to World Building. Oh, maybe the game mastering one is new. Scroll down a couple more. Kobold's Guide to Game Mastering. Like, I thought I read that book. I don't know. So not a ton new over there. I was the guy with a lot of monitors, and I could never get them all to work right because of the setup I had. So I had like 2 video cards. Like, it was just a mess. 7-site migration go. Oh, yeah. That's in progress. 1 went well. Actually, I should check to just see if it's still up and running. Nope. Oh, wait a minute. Well, there's 1 migration. That's strange. Oh, the certificate's no good. That's fantastic. Not sure why it's even doing that. Oh, come on, just go. Yeah, I'll accept the risk. What? Oh, for Pete's sakes. Oh, site not found. It didn't work. Have to redo that one. So something is amok. I did it last night. The thing is with moving a site that I'm running into is like, how do you know it's moved? Well, you could ping it. Okay. Yeah, but something obviously didn't go smoothly. So I have 7 websites to move. 3 are, like, if they get completely deleted, I'll be fine. It's not a big deal. They don't have a lot of content. So I'm testing those out to like, okay, how do I do this? Move it. Okay. This is how I do it. Okay, this is how it works. Okay, fine. Then I move Gaming and BS because that's the one that has the most content and has the feed and all that stuff. So I'm not totally lost, but there was a couple of head scratching moments like, huh? How? What? Remove the host file? Huh? Uh-oh, shit. Then you got to wait for the DNS to resolve. Yeah, I think I got to revert a couple things to get that going. So we'll see. It's going to be a process. It's volume 2, Sean. I totally support Sean volume 2. Second edition, second ed. Sean second ed. So the end answer is no, not as well as I'd hoped. I didn't think it would be easy. Every time I'm like, so kind of background, there's some sites I have that are on an outdated version of something. And so in order for me to update it, I have to do some things. Well, on some sites, I could just literally select it and hit OK, and then it updates that piece. Gaming and BS is one where if I do that, it tanks the entire site. So I'm not sure. I know there's a way to fix that, but then what is that? I don't know. And so I'm just going to move it, and because it'll save me like a few bucks a month over time anyway. So, and I don't want to get into managing a bunch of crap anymore. Like, it's kind of like my days of Windows and futzing. My days of futzing is starting to come to an end. Like, I just don't have the time, patience to do that. So I just want to get it to a place and it stays there. And everything that needs to be updated and maintained is done by somebody else or by a service. And I don't have to worry about it. And voila. So I'm not like Brett would say, well, what are you futzing with now? No, I'm literally trying to move it so that I don't have to futz with it ever again or get it hacked. So I'm going to give Augie some food. I should have the Augie cam, like right here. You guys can see Augie climb up my pants. Come on, want some treats? Well, I'll be right back. Oh, you're being a bad cat? Here, let me reward you with treats. I get it. I'm a bad parent. I'm an enabler. Anyways, traceroute, CIP trail. Yeah. Traceroute, ping. It's whatever, right? Like, I even did reverse DNS. It's just something went amok. Oh, excuse me. So I had it done. I think I have the files over at the new host, but it's trying to get the domain to resolve correctly. And with WordPress, it's weird because in the database, some of you might know, it has to have the same domain. Like if you have a domain, I don't want to get into it. It's a freaking mess. Does Sean have Thaco? No, he does not, Matthew. Sean says no to Thaco. To hit armor class 0. Intermission. All right, I'm back. All right. So what are we going to talk about? Laramie was on Discord last night. I said, I don't have anything planned. He goes, you can come up with something. He threw me like 5 suggestions. And like a good, hard-headed individual you give advice to, I took none of it. I was going to do an Ask Me Anything. AMA? Want to do an AMA? I don't know if Brad and I have never done an AMA. I think sometimes they're kind of, I don't know, pretentious maybe. But AMA, I'm good with an AMA. But then that means you guys got to do it, right? Like, some of you might be sitting back enjoying your cup of joe, just listening and going, shit, now I got to freaking type something in the chat. Victor. Oh, man. So, AMA, if you want, put them in there. Some of the things I got going on is feng shui. I could do that. I could pull that up. If any of you are even remotely interested, I'm going to run a game. So right now I got 2 Forbidden Land games. One is limited run. So I'm going to do these limited runs. And one of the limited runs is Forbidden Lands. So we just did session 3. And I mentioned it was going to be 4 to 6 sessions. It's a hilarious campaign. Dorigo's in that. I hope he's having fun. But after that, I want to run Feng Shui. And to do that, it's not a huge, like, complex system. I mean, there's a little crunchiness to it. But what will really help is to have at least a character sheet. So people can just click like one, kind of a one-click resolution kind of thing. Roll20, I think, has it. But I'm not a big fan of Roll20. I'm more of a fan of Foundry. So, limited run being 3 sessions? No, probably same, 4 to 6, Blake. Like one scenario, nothing too crazy. Because I'd be running it every other week. And if I do 12 every other week, shoot, man, that's 24 weeks. That's almost 6 months. And I'd rather not commit to something for that long at this point. Because the nice thing about only committing to 3 or 4 sessions every other week is like every, 8 to 12 weeks, playing a different game. Who is Feng Shui? Feng Shui. Feng Shui 2 by Robin D. Laws. Thank you, Blake. Hong Kong martial arts game like Big Trouble in Little China. There you go. That's it. Now you know, Ty. The more you know, Ty. Some say it's Feng Shui. Some call it Feng Shui. Depends on the deal. So I have decided to take a stab at trying to build my own character sheet in Foundry. And I think here's the test. You can probably barely see. I don't think, that's not going to blow up. But anyways, using Simple World Builder, which is something you can do for like systems that aren't already created for Foundry, which there's a lot, but again, Feng Shui is not. Feng Shui uses a 2d6 model. One is a positive die, one's a negative die. If you roll a 6 on either one of those, it explodes. So one's positive, one negative. So you can go, if the negative explodes over and over, you're going down, 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 down. And then obviously with the positive, it's going up, up, up. But it's up off of a base score. So for example, if you can see my screen here, guns, right? So in this sheet, guns, I have a score of 15. That's my base score. If I hit the little roller here, it rolls. Look at that. 2 6s. Go figure. They explode. And then in the chat, it's right below me. Actually, fantastic. You guys can't even see it. Let me move me. So in the chat, the result, you can expand it. You can see the results of the dice. So it goes off your base. So if I rolled a 4 positive and a 1 on negative, difference being 3 in the positive way, I would add that 3 to the base, which would give me an 18. All right, that would be the result of my roll, which is the swerve. Okay, is what it's called. So I could put that in there, and I've done that so far. I've kind of started. I got the die thing working, and I got the kind of score thing. Now I just have to put in skills, backup, attack, defense, toughness, and a lot of the things that Feng Shui do is really the same mechanic. The 2d6, exploding, add that number to the base. What's the result? And that's it. Like if I can get that in there, the skills are done the same way. And then I can like maybe touch up the sheet a little bit, make it look a little bit prettier. But that's what I'm going to do. So once that's done, that's all I really need. It doesn't need to be as complicated as some other things. Like maybe items I could put on there. We'll see. Create a few like gun items and put properties on those items. You know, like ranges for guns. Yeah. I And so you don't click the gun. I could probably get a die to click the affiliated or derived skill. So if I click the gun item, it'll roll the gun's skill. So I might do that. It depends on how crazy I want to get. But the die roll thing was an important one because you just make things easier for people that play. So that's what I'm doing now. And once I get that into place, it'll probably be time to wrap up the One Forbidden Lands game, and then I'll launch Feng Shui. The default setting, I don't know if I'll use. That has to do with like the Netherworld, and then there's like you go to different times, but the time that you're in is always the same. So it's like not a time jumping thing. It's more of probably more of an interplanar thing. You know, there's like a plane somewhere where like the simians, like robotic simians and robotic apes are the thing, right? So it can get a little over the top. So if you like, I was just telling the guys on Thursday night with the Forbidden Land, or Wednesday night with the Forbidden Lands group, if you like the Big Trouble in Little China, you don't mind the sorcery piece of it, and you know, kind of the zaniness of it, you'll love Feng Shui. Some people will play it true to like 80s movies, like if you take Stallone and all the Schwarzenegger movies, and you kind of model it after that, where they're, you know, Chuck Norris, Invasion USA, and, you know, all the Chuck Norris movies, then you probably want to limit some of like the sorcery or magic components, right? If you're just wanting to be, you know, blood sport, or even Jackie Chan movies, right? Hong Kong mashups, like the detective in Hong Kong and getting into fights, martial arts fights all the time, then you probably don't want to get into like the Chi War pieces of the setting. So we'll see. I haven't hashed that out completely, but I'm interested to run it. High Octane Man, turn it up to 11. Probably record it at least. Maybe put some sound effects in there. Look at that. Pretty good, huh? It's all right. You get this for free. It's crazy. So Ty, I can't get the color dice I can't get the dice to be one color and the other one to be another. There's a way to do it programmatically. I just don't know what it is, but it won't matter because it's just, the dice are just pretty, right? It's kind of like Roll20. A lot of people use Roll20. They don't use the dice, the 3D to go across the screen. Foundry executes it better, so it looks kind of cooler. And if you notice, I actually have the little exploding effect. If you can look at the dice, see if I can get them to explode. They'll actually go. Phew. There's one. Oh, it didn't do it. Did it? Did I miss it? Oh, it's probably on the second roll. Crap. There it is. Sparkly. Because it exploded. Anyways. And you can always drop down the chat and look at the results on what one was higher or lower. So like that was the negative die. So instead of 15, it went down to 7. All right. So there you go. Hey, Nelson, what's going on? Woke up late this morning. Woke up late this morning. Is there a song on there? No, not sure. Anyways, so yeah. This Monday on Gaming and BS, we'll be recording, is the plan, Monday night, the 28th, 29th? 29th? Is that 29th? 27th, 28th? 28th? We're going to be talking about Vaesen. From Free League. Started reading it. Brett's pretty stoked on the game, so he'll be driving that, I'm sure. much like many of our episodes, we don't get into a lot of tactical step-by-step mechanics. We do on some of the games we've done, because it's kind of part of the game, right? Like, how does Vaesen work? What's it about? Where Brett likes to keep it more ethereal, I think, in the top subject topic, like how do you get your gamers to interact with the lore, right? That's not initiative, right? Let's talk about initiative, or top 5 things you can do for X or Y. So it'll be interesting to do Vaesen. We haven't done a game in a while. And then after that, there's some talks about changing things up a little bit, getting a peek under the covers of GM decision making. We'll see if we can pull that off. I don't know, but if we can, it'll be interesting, because I think that's a gap that's been missing. And I mentioned that on a stream here or there before, but we'll see. We shall see. Ty, it's not late. It's only 8 a.m. here. Yeah. You know, it's beer 30 somewhere. Just regular Blake. We don't have the British version. British version isn't out yet. So Efer, you should do a how-to on Foundry and your personal preferences. I know many others have done it, but I'd be interested in your take, and I'm sure you would bring something unique to the table. Well, thanks, Weefer. I have a standard list of go-to modules. Depends on the game that you're running, how you're using Foundry. There's some people that'll get all bonkers, hog wild, and put in lighting and music and sound and all that. And there's some that are like, I just need to put handouts down on there or a whiteboard. So I get it. I could do that. We'll see. It's, I don't know. Foundry is its own, like, I think one guy does a lot of his own, like his whole channel is just Foundry tutorials on stuff. And then the things change. So you're like, this is what I use. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I watch this 2 years from now and none of it pertains because all the modules are out of date or deprecated. It's like, wah, wah. Ty, have you ever made your own hex crawl map? No, I have not. Next question. Nothing? AMA lasted all about 5 seconds. I haven't made my own hex crawl map. Ty, I'm a lazy dungeon master, man. I'm a lazy GM. I don't like a lot of that prep stuff. I really don't. Life's too should get a shirt. Life's too short to prep. Let me write that down. I'm going to put that in my notes. Life's too short to game prep. No, life is too short to prep. It's kind of a dual, it's got a kind of double entendre, right? Life is too short to prep, but when it's gamer context, right? It's different. So I ain't running published adventures. I mean, even Forbidden Lands, I don't need a hex map because it comes with one. So I just put it down and go, here, this is where you're at. How do you handle a party arriving at a new city, village, settlement? Well, it depends on the city, village, or settlement. Like, what kind is it? How big is it? Is there gates? Do they keep people out? How do they enter? Do they keep the gates open during the day and close them at night? Why? So right off the bat, you can garner. I think there's so much more information that we can give players just from things that, like, it could be very brief. Like, perfect example, Sweeper. Party's going to go to a town, village, settlement. Do any of the players, have they ever been there? Do they have any knowledge of that city, village, settlement? If they do, that's going to be great, because then you could funnel things through that player character. If they haven't, and they're literally just, they come across it, what properties makes up that city, village, settlement? So obviously the size, how it's run, if it's gated or not, why is it gated? Probably to keep baddies out. Who are the baddies? So they're in the neighborhood. That could always be a piece that they need to know, or we'll find out. Is it along a trading post or a trade route? What do they trade? Why do people stop there? Are they along a river? The only reason I say some of this is because it kind of makes up the ecology or the environment of the city, village, settlement. Is there somebody that's like the elder that runs the show, or is it more of a community that's democratized or has a council and it's representative of certain parts of the town or whatever? Streets of Avalon. Avalon's a lot different than Hamlet. The village of Hamlet. The village of Hamlet. Shakespeare. So I would say they arrive, you describe, I would say, and this goes back to having some things in your pocket, right? They're going to go to a town, what I need. And then the name of the inn, who's the proprietor, like even just like who are they going to see? Like, is it a gnome, or a dwarf, a human, a woman, a man? Okay, that's going to happen. Let's go to the inn, right? As they're walking through the town, what do they see? So have some things that they might see along. I would probably put something right on the street that's going to happen. Maybe somebody steals something and gets accused of something and you come across it. Do the players interact, or they just take note? If they don't interact and they take note, just note who that was. Like, was it a young boy, young girl that was stealing something from the local merchant? What was that? And then maybe the boy steals something from them later, especially if they don't interact with them, right? Get the kid to steal something from the party, because they could have interacted and maybe stopped it or settled things, and they didn't. So have it come back and bite them. It's probably none of their business, so they'll just kind of go about it. Or maybe the thief runs into the party. Then what? And they're like, whoa. Do you hand it over? Do you hand him over to the merchant or not? Maybe the merchant's going to cut off his hand or her hand. Have some of those things, I think, and then they'll what do they want to do in the town? What's going to happen there? Put a little cult in there if you want to make things really interesting. Some adventures, I can't remember which one. Was it the Cult of the Reptile God? I think the town was like a cult, if I'm not mistaken. Like kind of a party unraveling that, if I remember correctly. That's how I would do it. Assuming that's kind of the deal, like just have some things, like write a bullet list of the town and then when hopefully they'll hit those, or maybe they won't, but at least you have them to reference. So some establishments, maybe like this person doesn't like that person because they did them wrong somehow. Get a thief involved. Maybe the party runs into the thief, or they've had something stolen. Maybe a supply didn't show up to the town, so they're hurting for food or whatever, and maybe they're wanting people to gather some food because something's happening and they're not sure what it is. And that gives the players an opportunity to investigate on behalf of the town. Because starvation could be a big deal. Like, yeah, there's people starving here. Need some heroes to go out and find out what the hell is going on. We just don't have enough people to do it. Or just the knowledge or person power to do it. Matthew, lazy. How long have you spent setting up Foundry? So Matthew, trick question. So Forge, where my Foundry is hosted. I've had it hosted at a few different places. I finally settled at Forge because, again, I'm done. I'm kind of done with my fiddling days. So I got Forge to host it. When you set it up at the Forge, the modules that you install in Foundry are always there. You just have to enable them in the game. So it's pretty easy that way. If I were to self-host, I would have to install the modules separately for every game, which is kind of a pain in the ass. Because then you got to remember, which ones are for this one, which ones are for that one. I think they might have changed that with the releases over the last few releases. I don't know, but it doesn't take long. Like I could fire up a game, pick a game system, go through my module list, check a bunch of boxes, hit save, and the game's up. And then they could create some characters. And it depends on the complexity. Like Star Wars, dudes, like, let me see if I can pull this up. And once you have it, you can, in the Forge, you can duplicate a game. So say I have a Star Wars game and I've been running it a while and I've got all the tokens, I've got all the maps, I've got all the items and the gear, and I imported all that stuff. I want to play another Star Wars game. I could duplicate that game in the Forge and create a complete replication of it instead of having to go through all of that importing again. So it could be relatively quick. Hope that answers your question. Orcus Dorcas, I asked if there was a licensed property you'd like to see come to a tabletop RPG. Licensed property. I don't know. Because the Star Wars one is good. Lord of the Rings has been out there for a while. Licensed property. There's some that are good that are already parts of RPG Landia. And I think ones like, say, The Expanse, which is like a great book series and TV series on Amazon. Well, I got The Expanse RPG. You don't even have to use that. You can use Traveler if you wanted to. So the short answer is nothing that comes to mind offhand. Because and even with an espionage one, they have Cold Wars, but it's not an IP, or Cold Shadows, which isn't based off of an IP. But would I say, Soldier, Tailor, Tinker, Spy from Le Carré? Maybe. But then there's Cold Shadows. So my quick answer is not off the top of my hand, Orcus Dorcas. That isn't already out there that I could think of. I'm sure there is. Like some, Blade Runner's coming out from Free League. I haven't read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? I probably should, because I'm sure the book's awesome. Will I pick up Blade Runner? It depends. Only on what will you do in that game as a Blade Runner. Are you going to be just like a cop, like, the Detective Harrison Ford plays, and you're in that world? And what does that consist of? Because that world's supposed to kind of tie to the Aliens world somehow. So I don't know. Because if you would have asked me before Aliens would you say, oh yeah, I would totally want Aliens to be an RPG? I would have been like, maybe, but I bought it. I haven't played it. That's another one on my radar. I want to play one-shots of Alien. Modules or homebrew? Oh, shit. Yeah, Nelson, I would say, if you're talking about adventures specifically, I would say, depending on the game. So, for example, if I run Aliens, I'm going to run the newest one that they released. It's actually not out on print yet. It's Heart of Darkness, I think, or something like that. I think it's a box. It's going to be a box set for cinema play, and I will run that. Like, grab me the box, read it, run it. But there might be other games like Forbidden Lands. Like I've got Forbidden Reach and what else? Is that on my shelf? Forbidden Reach, and they got the new one that's coming out. Those are settings, but I wouldn't have anything planned. So maybe a hybrid. I guess it depends. Like I would, if like what you're doing with Castle Amber, Nelson's running Castle Amber for a few folks on Sundays. If I got the itch to go like, hey, let's whip out some AD&D or some BX and go like, I'm gonna run you through Pharaoh and Oasis of the White Palm, and I would just run those just out of nostalgia and give people a try that might have heard of those old classic modules and have that experience, then I'd probably run the modules. But if I run like Midnight or even Star Wars, I would probably, but are they homebrew? Because you're using Star Wars, are they homebrew? Because you're using the Midnight setting, not your own. So I guess the question is, I would probably use the setting published, and then I would implement my own homebrew adventures in some of those. Player or GM? Nelson, he woke up, got his coffee, now he's good to go. Player or GM? I get more opportunities to GM than I do play. I don't get hit up for playing very often. So I like Game Master. I think as a player, I like playing. It depends on the game, and it depends on how long the game is. I don't think I can become a player in a long-term campaign, unless it was something like Delta Green Impossible Landscapes, or Mass Nyarlathotep, some huge, massive, awesome, this is like the campaign to be, campaigns of all campaigns. Otherwise, I like playing different characters, and frankly, I don't mind if my player character dies because I get bored of him. Like, he's boring. I've run this route. My buddy Jeff is like, he is career player, plays similar characters kind of every time he plays. Not always, but that's his shtick. Like, he has no ambition to game master at all. And frankly, he's a better player, honestly. So I would say I'm the opposite. Roger says, it's a village of 930 rammed earth walls. 75% of the population is tiefling. Okay, population is tiefling. Is everybody else in the world tiefling, or are like they on an island, right? Because if that's like a rarity, then the party's like, what? A village of tieflings? Do we even want to go in this place? So I would say, what does that look like? I don't know enough about what you're running, Roger. Ty, is that what you do? Not do your own game versus published mods? Is that why you don't do your own game versus published mods? As far as time and prep? Is that what it is, Ty? I could not do published. Boring to me. Published can have quite a few good ideas. And maybe you take this or that. I'm finding that going back to prepping, I'd rather sit down and kind of put down a few things, come up with them in the spur of the moment, and see what happens than to try to memorize published, making sure I don't screw it up. And then if I do, then what happens? The players will never know, but in my brain, I'll be like, oh man, this thing has just been trashed because I didn't do this piece right. So if you're coming out of your brain, to me, it's more organic than it is when it's published. That's just a shift in me, because I was all, if I'm going to run something, I buy it off the shelf. 25% of the population is Kender. Haha. It's funny. I made my group go through customs last time. That's fantastic. All right. I got to catch up. You guys went crazy here. Now, since I like published, too much brain power needed to build custom. I make it a sandbox from there. Go where you want. Do what you want. Yeah. But we have to know ourselves. And I think we're really creatures of habit. And so even though we say, I'm going to change, I find myself probably slipping back into some old habits. So game mastering and changing your game mastering style can be like something you may not even be aware of, where you're like making a conscious effort to change, but then your subconscious takes over and you're sliding into comfort levels. It's a really weird dynamic. And obviously I've given a little thought, but I agree, it can be time consuming and a lot of brain power. But I think what happens with a lot of folks that do that, one, they enjoy it, right? Part of the game master piece is like, I'm going to build my own world. Woo. And on the flip side, I'm like, I'm going to build my own world. Ugh. And I think we bite off too much. We don't need a lot. We don't need a lot at all. And the players could play for 4 hours on very, very little. And Nelson, you're a testament to this, right? Forbidden Lands. Nelson's in my 4 to 6 week Forbidden Lands game, along with 4 others. Hobbs hasn't been able to make it, but 3 others. And they've gone, 7 hexes, maybe 8 hexes in 4 sessions. Perspective wise, for those not in the know, in 1 session, you could go 4 hexes. Right? So I'm trying to give you kind of scale and context. Well, these guys have decided to say like, hey, we're going to go here because we got beat up. We're going to stay here. And then once we're healed up, then we're going to go back to this. And they're outside a goblin cave. And this is the 3rd time they're in front of the same goblin cave. Prep wise, what have I had to do? They've been through the hexes, roll on a counter table. Something comes through, maybe not. They go into another hex. They come to a cave. All right, what do? Kind of ponder that. They decide not to go into the cave, and they go back a hex to camp. They know the cave is probably inhabited by some goblins, so they kind of get away from there and figure out what they want to do next. The goblins are nocturnal. They see better in the darkness. They don't like the light in this world. That's like canon. And so I'm playing it that way. Group goes, they camp. Well, the goblins come in and steal their food. Well, guess where they go? They go back to the cave. So now the party has no food, and they go to the goblins. They go in the goblin cave, run into some stuff, few wolves. They dispatch a couple goblins, but they're like, well, we can't see. We're kind of up against the wall, so we're going to get out of here. And a couple guys, I think one got wounded. And so they're like, let's get out of here. Got maybe one thing of food. That was kind of it. And so they retreat and stay outside the goblin cave. And at one night, the goblin comes out and stares at one of the guys that keeps watch, and he sees him and casts a spell on him and shook him to his bones, shook him to his core. But they're outside that goblin cave. What do I need to prep? Like, unless they move out of that hex, they could. Like the next session, they could like, Sean, you know what? Screw this shit. We don't need these guys. We'll go hunt. We'll forage for food, hunt. And then we're going to go travel and see what happens. Well, then I got to come up with something or have something in my back pocket. But other than that, so it depends on the game you're running. If you're doing Star Wars, you got to have stuff happen. Watch a Star Wars movie, got to throw Greedo in the cantina, come to get the bounty, Han Solo blows them away. Imperials are, looking for 2 droids. Finally got word where they are. Mos Eisley, they got to get out of there because they're going to come for those droids. And you just got to keep doing that. You got to keep that going and going and going. Okay, they get in the ship. They get out into space. Oh, guess what's there? Imperial Star Destroyer. Just one thing after the other. But you also want to make it organic. Like, you don't want to feel as though you're just, you just don't want to keep throwing things at them to throw things at them. It's got to be kind of like Star Wars, right? It's like, oh man. And I'll tell you, we got to sit down and watch some of our favorite shows. Like Ozark is good, Breaking Bad, some of those, like, what in the hell could possibly happen now? Like, just when you thought that the air was cleared, the drug dealer that you work for, the cartel, sends somebody into town, or the mob gets involved. You're like, God blast it all. Another thing to tackle. That's what I think a lot of role-playing games have to be, is just, you don't have to have them on the run all the time and they're frantic, but you just got to come up with things enough to make them interesting, to have them make decisions. And maybe it's a social encounter where it's not life or death, but it doesn't necessarily have to be action, but I don't know. That's just my take. Thanks, Nelson. I appreciate it, man. Laramie, Sweet for Customs is great in something like Knights Black Agents. Customs is great like Delta Green. Delta Green's fantastic. I want some Delta Green. But you got to really be into like Delta Green. Like you got to want to play. Like if you're like, oh, I'll try it out. Nah, you got to really just be like, what is it about? What? Oh yeah, man, this is a game I've been looking for. It's not high action. You're not a hero. You're going to take it on the frickin' chin all the time, but you might not die, and it's not guns. Like you pull a gun, you're in a lot of trouble. But you're like going to investigate something. There's a conspiracy. Did somebody see you? And what happens? Like, what? Now your face is plastered all over the news and you're a fugitive? Like, how does that work? Like, it's not just hey, I'm awesome, so I just disappear because that's how it works. No, it's like very simulationist. That's why I like it. So when people go through customs, like, okay, are you packing heat or are you not packing heat? You're not. Okay, great. Fine. You get through customs. Now you land on the other end, you don't have a gun. Okay, that's just the way it is. Well, I hide one in my, shoe. Like, what are the chances of a legit person walking through customs with a gun? Like, it's just not going to happen. Well, Sean, I'm like secret agent guy, so I should be able to hide it in my shoe and they'll never know. It's not James Bond. It's not Knights Black Agents. Got to think, That's why when you listen to a live play and they do bad things to like innocent people, it's because they kind of have to. And then they try to cover it up. And then, how successful are they at trying to cover that up? Perfect example was it the Black Project? One of the podcasts that did a live play. I think it was, they started out with the kickoff adventure for Delta Green. Booger, forgot the name of it. Last Things Last. Very small scenario, but it kicked off an entire campaign. And those guys were like, hey, we're going to visit this farmhouse and stuff happens. And then they're like, oh, what if somebody drives by and sees you poking around a farmhouse with 5 other people and they're the neighbor? Oh, that's weird. I'm going to stop by and see if Gretchen's okay. Neighbor stops by. Hey, what's going on? Who are you guys? Now that creates a huge deal. Like, well, do we divulge we're FBI? Do they believe us? Do we have badges? So they do that and say, yep, well, we're FBI. We're here to investigate there. What are they investigating? Like, oh, Gretchen? Then FBI? What? Weird. That's strange. Huh. And then okay, well, I guess I'll see you later. They get a good look at you. They're here to hear when they're talking. So they got your face and description, height and all that. And, what if something happens in the house and there's a gunshot and you're like talking to this guy who's the neighbor. He's like, what was that? No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We're FBI. We're going to go look at that. You need to go, Okay, he goes, happens to know the local cop. Hey, you know anything going on at Gretchen's house? That just cop investigates. Now what's the party going to do? She gotta. It's like Joe Pesci's character in Casino, where he's like, you got to go out if you're gonna do something in Vegas and get rid of somebody, you got to go out to the desert and dig the hole first. That way, when you kill the person, you just drive them out to the desert, put them in the hole, and bury them. But if you do it where you kill the person first before you make the hole, you're liable to have somebody come across you, and before you know it, you're digging holes all fucking night. It's like I butchered the quote, but it's fantastic anyways. They don't need gates. Nobody wants to enter the town. There you go. Maybe the town comes up and comes across them in a patrol. Wonder what they're doing. I really need to run published stuff. This custom crap is exhausting. Roger, it is, and I often you get to a point where it's like, I don't know what to come up with. And I'll tell you, man, Discords, I run stuff by Brett all the time. Like, dude, I don't know what to, like, here's where these guys are. I don't know what to do. Like, Phil's in the chat, Phil and Wayne, they're in my Forbidden Lands game. They went through a portal. They're like, what happened just now? And Harrigan's character walked all the way through and tried to come back and hit like, boom, like a brick wall. Well, window, so to speak, because he could see through it. Boonk. Boonk. Oh, hey, don't come back. Don't come. You can't get back. The party doesn't hear him, you know? Now what happens? So, you know, this Thursday, I better have something for them for what happens. So I'll like put it out to patrons, but these yahoos are patrons, so they'll see the responses. But I'll tell you, like Discord, I think that is an untapped area where it's like, you know, and sometimes Discord, it takes a while for people to respond. I know you posted in ours. It was like, hey, I got this thing coming up. I'm not sure of what should I do? And then it just kind of sits there. Hopefully, you know, eventually somebody will chime in and they'll be like, oh, okay. And I try to do that. And then you got better tips that you liked that fit better into the game. And that's great. Like, that's the thing that should start happening with game masters. Because they'll come up with some really great stuff you wouldn't even have thought of. And you're like, oh, Sean didn't come up with Jack, but that one that Nelson came up with is gold, man. I'm going to do that for sure. A few times I try to do a sandbox, Ty says. I only shaded in a few miles from where the PCs are going or might go. Only fill in the far in of where the PCs are, if that is where they might go. Yeah. Hey, Larry, good to see you, man. But that's, yeah. We get like, you know, you get into the map drawing and it's like, I'm going to create the world. Like, you don't have to. It's not even pertinent to what you're running in the session. Do it through play. They'll come across it. Fantastic campaigns are getting to know the world a little bit more, and some of the factions that play. That's where I think some of these campaign settings shine. I think that's where, you know, Forgotten Realms, Eberron, Dragonlance, like those are all great settings. But if you can get people that play in those settings that don't know a lot about them, but you come across Draconians. You know, the first time we read the Dragonlance books and they were like, Draconians, what? You know, goes back and it's like a dragon human. What? Ooh, wow, that's great. You know, Dragon High Lords. You get to learn some of that. I think that's where some of the RPG stuff is just, and as we've gotten older and we've played in these worlds and we've played in these monster books all this time, a lot of that seems to, like, you know, be underwhelming sometimes. And how do we instill that spirit of wonder again? That's really what it is, without going too crazy, like too bonkers. Sometimes we'll play a particular game that may take that too far and it's not our thing, right? Okay, so we're playing a fantasy game. You come across this structure. It's buried in the sand. It's got this weird angle to it and this weird material. It looks like material made out of your sword. Looks like metal, right? This whole big structure. You know, it's the module. Oh shit! What the hell is the module? It's getting on a spaceship when you're in a fantasy world. Some people love that crap. They just like, oh my God, so awesome, man. John Carter, Mars, woo! Not me. Like the guys that go through the portal for Forbidden Lands, like Harrigan was like, I think he even mentioned it. Like I feel pretty comfortable with whatever you come up with because I know you don't like to mix your genre. Like I'm not going to throw these guys into Star Wars world because they went through a portal for Forbidden Lands. I don't want to break that too much. It's too much of a leap. But, you know, I just think there's some things where it's like bestowing some of the knowledge through play and going, oh, you've lived in this world for 30 years. you know this area, and you know, like, hey, is that old Ben? You think that's old Ben that they're talking about? Like, they're looking for a guy named Obi-Wan Kenobi. Is that old Ben Kenobi? You know, oh, Tusken Raiders come into play. You know, Jawas. We knew, like, if you lived on Tatooine, you know who the Jawas are. You know who the Tusken Raiders are. You know what their shtick is. Like, Jawas are just, you know, pilfering everything and stealers of, you know, whatever they can get their hands, scrappers. I mean, imagine watching Star Wars the first time ever. That's like, can we pull that off in an RPG at our age, at our experience? I don't know. I mean, how many D&D things can come about that's fantastical and wonder, you know? That's why kids are just, they don't go through all this. Like, it's fairy tales and things that they might have read as little kids. You put them into an RPG, man, their heads explode. That's how we got into it, right? That's what we love about this hobby. We can get jaded over time. So we look for better games or better mechanics or, you know, certain, maybe different mysteries or something like that. Maybe explore a different genre. Like, when growing up, played Top Secret, Star Trek, D&D. Those were the three go-to. Not even Star Wars. Growing up, it was those three: Star Trek, Top Secret, D&D. Yeah, so there you go. Forge is great. Thanks, Larry. Yeah, that's good. I play through Roll20, and I know, like, I know it like Sean. I am too old to learn a new VTT, even if Runehammer VTT is easy to use. Farty, AMA, what do you do when not playing RPGs or breaking tech? Man. I used to ride motorcycle. Try to run, get back into running. I go into a winter hibernation and then I come out of it. And, you know, any day that's like 50, 60 or above, I try to get in a decent run because I'm getting old. I don't want my quality of life to suck. And, well, I live kind of a boring life, Nelson. I love podcasting and the tech and producing and that stuff. And I wish I could do a little bit more of it. It's a lot of time consumption, but, yeah, I would say it depends, man. It's like go-to phrase, right? RPGs, hobbies wise, it's RPGs, tech, stuff like this. I would say those are the big ones. Sometimes I'll have to do some house improvement or whatever. Yesterday, I like cleaned out my refrigerator. Like, I'm boring. I'm a boring dude. Yeah, there you go. What else? Let's scroll down, buddy. See you, Laramie. What was the last book I read? Ooh, non-RPG? You know, I haven't even probably finished an entire RPG book either. I was reading Index Card RPG, started on Vaesen, don't get through them all. I don't know if I've mentioned this before. Reading books guaranteed to put me to sleep. Guaranteed to put me to sleep. I could be on crystal meth and I would go to sleep. Like, I don't know what it is with reading the written word. It's a struggle. I think the last book and this probably doesn't count because I'm a big audiobook guy, just because I can just put on the headphones and as I'm walking, running, walking my dogs, driving, I could just get it in and I don't fall asleep because I'm walking, driving, whatever. I'm pretty far into Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. It's a guy who wakes up on a ship and his memory is pretty foggy. And it kind of goes from there. It's good. I like it. Science fiction. I think that is probably one. If you say, well, like completed it. I think Kobold Guide to Game Mastering might have been one. Might have been the last one. Kind of RPG, kind of not, right? Yeah, there you go. I would like to see Ranger's Apprentice as an RPG. The reason is no magic fantasy setting. Yeah. Matthew, want to play 5e? Invite, I take it. I don't know. I'm not right now. Maybe. Depends. Shit. Sorry, guys. Length of time, the setup. Yeah, I don't know. The commitment is the big one, right? I have an allowance of time, like many of us do. So I have an every other week game. And so I game once a week. 2 games. Sundays I was playing a little while. Like I was playing with Nelson and Roger, Feng Shui, for a few weeks. That's over. So my Sundays are kind of, see what happens with those commitments on Sundays, like, oh, okay, cool. We'll play a game Sundays from like early to, afternoon. And if I do that for like 3 or 4 in a row, eventually not having that will be good because then I got free time on Sunday to do whatever. So I have to use that sparingly, especially on the weekends. Because the weekends is kind of things I can maybe free up to do other stuff. Where am I going with this? So I think it's just a matter of timing. And then if I do, how long am I committing to? So if you say, hey, Sean, you want to play 5e? And I say, sure. We just keep playing till whenever, forever. Then it's like, I don't know if I want to play like a 2-year campaign, which one Forbidden Lands game is kind of going on. It's been over a year and a half-ish. I would have never thought it would go that long. There's so many games I want to try and play with different people, mind you. Right? It's just the kind of, like some people are very much, I'm going to play D&D 5e with my home group until the dawn of time or end of time. Dawn of time? They're perfectly fine doing that. That is fantastic. Good for them. And there's people that have done that and are continuing to do that. Great. That's just not me. I've had lots of different game groups, played lots of different games, and that's the fun stuff for me. Like, there you go. Ty says, Sean, is it more about who you are playing with or what game you are playing? Yes. I haven't played with a lot of bad people or players. I don't have a lot of bad experiences in role-playing games. And I think the reason is that I've got a pretty good handle on what that might look like. I'm fortunate and lucky, honestly. Because anybody I could play with, if I haven't played with them before, could be a complete crapshoot. And that's why I think sometimes when I hear about game groups and they're like, oh, I'm having this problem. We got this one guy. He started out like this and he's really tactical and he's not role playing. And he just rolls a die and says, tell me the result. And it's driving us bonkers. And we had a discussion. He was going to try to do better. And then it's getting worse as time goes on. I don't know what to do. And I think to myself, man, life is too short to play with gamers that don't mesh. Notice I didn't say bad gamers. Gamers that don't mesh. Because having done recruiting for 10 years, and I think I brought this up last week, having done recruiting for 10 years, you can run into the person who you think nobody in the world is going to hire. They're abrasive, condescending, not a people person. They don't know the technology, whatever it is. That person gets hired and somebody needs them somehow. They see other things. I don't know. So with gaming, if the person is like, they don't role play and they just roll the die, tell me what happens, there is a game group for that person. There is a game master for that person. That person could be a game master and people could appreciate how that person runs a game. Great. But if you are struggling and not having a good time, you gotta find somebody else. And it takes a while and you kind of got to get out of your comfort zone. And maybe we're not, at the level of wanting to do that all the time, or that you have reservations. But I'm going to guess that there are more good people to play games with than there are the opposite. Good people that you probably mesh with. With the groups that I have played in over time, somebody might say, well, how come you don't still play with those same groups? And, is it a falling out? Maybe, a little bit. It depends on the game that they're playing. If they say, hey, like Doc's group, they're going to play Shadowrun. I don't want to play Shadowrun. Let me know when it's done. And if you guys have me back, maybe I'll come back, right? It depends on what I'm doing. So I think that's usually the case. Life's too short for playing with gamers that don't mesh. Yeah, so there you go. What else here? Roger French, running Eberron Village's Drome, so not very... Oh, yeah, you're in the Drome. That's right, Droam. Kelly, good morning. That's all right. You're late. No big deal. Like, hey, it's, there's no time. Hey, don't worry about it. It's Saturday. Yeah, you're never late. You come in exactly when you can. Goblin Cave, Nelson says they're gonna clear it out. Goblin Stew. 1883 is a great show. Don't know it. So Victor 1883, which Ty probably elaborates in a few posts down below, is from Yellowstone by... Who is the producer? Shelton? Not Blake Shelton. Shit, I forgot his name. That guy's producing a ton of shows. I don't know how he's going to do it. Yellowstone's a ranch in Montana. Some politics go on, blah, blah, blah. 1883 is a precursor to that show where they go back to the ancestors that pick up a group of immigrants in Texas and then get them to Oregon is the goal. And that's the show, 1883, and the trials and tribulations of getting there. So... rough terrain, things of that nature. That's what he's referring to. New room on Discord, Game Master Corner, nothing but brainstorming for other games. Well, that's kind of what Let's Play is, I think. Let's Play, no. Oh, I thought there was a channel that I made specifically. Is it My Game? I think it's My Game. That's the one I created for that specific reason, is My Game. Talk about your game and put those like, hey, I got a problem with my game, or here's something I'm running into. That was the purpose. Maybe I need to change the description name. Ty says, I use the Game Master area knowing my players do not know about gaming and BS. No, that's fine, but it allows me to find stuff that helps me be a better GM or share ideas they will not hear about. Yeah. Good. Cool, Ty. Lost Caverns of Sojacanth. Yeah. Farty, I got some great ideas by jumping on the voice channel on Discord and chatting with BSers about the campaign. Helped a lot. Yeah, man. You can get some of these books and these cards and stuff to kick off campaigns, and they come up with things, but man, just bouncing it off other game masters, they will just come up with things you never thought of, and you're like, oh, and things that will not fit. You'd be like, no, Sean, you don't know the tone, so that's not going to fit. This, Brett and his, talk of dead babies, oh, perfect, whatever. And that's fine. Ty says, yeah, but how fun it could be through the people in the portal from FL game and deal with the Jedi. Yeah, it could be. Nah, that's not how I roll games. I couldn't. If I were playing in a game, it was like hex crawl. All right, cool. I'm jazzed. I'm a hex crawl. This is what I'm going to do. It's gritty. All right, here's the tone. You're going to be playing, I'm going to play a ranger, maybe rangers of the Midvale, and I patrol this land and come across things that might be, unnatural and make sure the communities are safe. And then all of a sudden we go through like a door and I end up in Star Wars. I'm like, this is not, I gotta go. The thing is, you could do Star Wars similar to something like that. There's all kinds of wackiness in the galaxy far, far away. So just play Star Wars. I don't know. I just, That's why I'm kind of struggling with feng shui is like, do I do the default setting and how much do the players know about that or they discover it? Like Jack Burton didn't know anything about sorcerers in Chinatown. And all of a sudden like, what the hell is all this stuff going on, right? But that's like, if you set that tone up front, then great, people will know it. Even with swords and sorcery or Tolkien fantasy-ish, you've got the strange magic that can happen. And I think by leaping to a different, leaping to a galaxy far, far away, like what is the damn adventure in about a spaceship in D&D? Ah, crap. Come on, I know what it is. It's out there. See you later, Roger. Come on. Can't believe I don't remember. They just did it for Goodman Games, just remade it. Oh, it's gonna kill me. B1, not B1. That's in an unknown. What is whatever. I need to get Sean into one of my games. Yeah. Busted my chops because you said you don't get asked to play, and I know how much you love 5e. Thanks, Matthew. William, good to see you. Going to bed. I'm going to head out. The kids want my attention. I need help with lunch soon. All right, good to see you, William. Have a good weekend. Time is too precious to waste limited hobby time biting your tongue in frustration, interacting with players that annoy you. Yeah, I'm in a real struggle. I'm in a real pickle right now because of my buddies. I love to game with them, and we have such a long history together, and they're great guys. But man, the minute I send out a text message and they don't respond ever or for weeks or days and I got to hit them over the head with another message, just sucks the living daylight out of me. It really, really does. And brings me back to reality to say, hey, if you want to play with these guys, this is what you're going to have to deal with. And sometimes I'm just like, God, blast it all. Barrier Peaks. Thanks, Roman. Wayne. Yeah, Barrier Peaks. I remember playing that adventure and the DM when we were kids, kind of narrating it. And then it was like, we were really thrown off. Like, yeah, and it was, I think it's even probably positioned in the adventure not to tell the characters what they're interacting with, but to describe what it looks like. So you go from a fantasy mindset to somebody describing something you have no idea what it is. Even though some will say, well, magic is technology, right? Or whatever. The technology is magic, whatever the saying is. I'm like, okay, for sure. But I don't see it that way. I don't. What's the saying? You guys are going to do my show for me. magic is just things not understood? Or magic is just technology not understood? Is that what it is? I don't know. Nah. I'll have to take my dog to the park. See you, Ty. Good to see you. Thanks. Have a good weekend. Hey, Hoos. Good to see you. Morning. All right. Yeah, I'm still on. What time is it? Oh, man. I'm going on 3 hours. I got to probably wrap it up pretty soon. S1, Barrier Peaks, bam, boom. Victor, thanks. Yeah. So describing a computer console to a fantasy, character. Gandalf walking in on NORAD? No. I know people that love that stuff. Not this guy. No. You find a tube with a handle and a trigger? Right. What is a trigger? Do they call triggers on crossbows? Yeah, exactly, Victor. And then you draw it out and you're like, oh, that's totally a gun. Oh, the word gun doesn't even exist in fantasy. Sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Thank you, Roger. Oh my God. If it wasn't for you guys, I'd be losing my mind. Hoos, thank you. That was Arthur C. Clarke. Yeah, I just sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Sure, if you're watching Star Trek Discovery and they got the spore drive and it's like flips their ship around 5 times and then poof, disappears and lands them in another area of the cosmos. Okay, sure. It's not my favorite series, probably because of some of that stuff. I'm getting too old. I think it was rushed. I think it was just like, boom, all of a sudden, like, hey, you guys are like 500 more years into the future. And, your teleporters are like instantaneous, but you still walk around. I don't know. Huh? Yeah, funny, Roger. Har, har, har. Yeah. Beam me up. Yeah, they used to have to ask. Not anymore. Not in Discovery. It's just like, poof, poof. Which is right. I mean, that should be what it is. I mean, what is transporter technology advanced 500 years? I mean, good God. It's so funny with Discovery. I could pick apart Star Trek. If you haven't watched Discovery, go watch it. It's Star Trek. At the same time, it's like, it's funny to see things that haven't evolved and things that have evolved, like maybe exponentially, maybe not. Do I have to click this to talk 500 years from now, or should I just be able to think it? I don't know. Even a camera can be magic. Sure, if you're in, 9th century AD or whatever, sure. But I don't want that in my role-playing games. I get, somebody would say, it's funny because I like Eberron and I have an appreciation for Eberron. But it is, why does this thing work the way it does? Well, it's because it's magic. Like, to me, technology is a mechanical thing. Right? That's the difference. Magic to me is not mechanical. Well, yeah, it is. It would be like, well, hey, the Force is midichlorians. Yeah, what's the big deal? Go watch it, Star Trek. They have hover boots in Star Trek 4. Why does anyone walk? Or, you know, why do you just not materialize them wherever you want to go? I'm going to go to the bridge. Poop. Like, why are they even walking down a hallway? Why is there a hallway? To connect something to another thing? Why don't you just make the hallway just solid steel? Well, where's engineering? Who gives a shit? You can just teleport there. I don't know. It's so strange. Anyways, I hate being that skeptical guy, right? Sitting in the audience. Oh, it's totally unbelievable. They totally wouldn't do that. And I do. I put that behind. I don't sit there and pick apart stuff. But I think when they say, well, like my wife's a big fan of Discovery, and I say, I don't like it. Oh, that's because of this or that's because of that. I'm like, maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe I don't actually sit down and go, why don't I like this show? In Discovery, they just double tap the chess communicator, but they never say where they want to go. That's fair, but why even tap it? Like, is there any, like, can we understand the brain? It's like, what? How many years in the future, man? 500, 1,000? We haven't evolved enough where we understand the brain enough to map things. We're doing it now. Like, there was an article I saw the other day where it was like somebody saw the brain map a memory. Like, that's freaking bonkers, man. No guns in my fantasy unless you're Brett. Ugh, don't get me started. Wayne, midichlorians, proof that Star Wars is not an artistic masterpiece. There's the mic drop. Hey, man, it's not without its fault, but I haven't read The Silmarillion, Wayne. The Silmarillion. And I know I'm not the only one that refers to it as that. Anyways. I want to really thank all you guys for doing some AMA. I was kind of lost. And I was thinking, well, we could talk about this prep. We could talk about gaming or NPCs or, you know, this and that, or what happens when you run into that. I don't know. For whatever reason, I just felt like I didn't have any creative juice to come up with a main topic for today. Or rehashing something we've done in the past. See you later, Roger. Good luck with the game. Let us know how it goes down. Don't forget, be a positive force in the tabletop RPG hobby. You bet, man. So feng shui. Play by post, I still haven't got one off the ground. One reason is because I'm a little, like, I want some commitment and obligation. I got to be able to do that myself. Like, if I want players to post every day, then I got to be able to commit myself to doing the same thing. And it's got to stay, like, I got to stay excited about it, right? Can't get bored. And what do I run? Harrigan was like, start out with something simple. Don't, even play. Don't run. Like, just get a feel for how the flow and da-da-da and this and that. And I'm like, impossible landscapes, big campaign, Delta Green. Yeah, great. It'll probably fizzle. That'll probably frustrate me with play-by-post. Guys like Harrigan is probably, I think he's in like 10 play-by-post games or 7. And he's probably played or been in exponentially more and tons that never went anywhere or fizzled out. I gotta say, resiliency for sure. And I know there's a lot of gamers that have gone on Twitter about play-by-posts. They're like, not for me. Nope, too slow. Forgot it. Gave it a shot. No way. Forget it. Not for me. And Who Steven says, start slow. I know. It's me. I just got to reel myself back. That's all. I can be very, is it impetuous? Is that the word? That's my mom. That's my mother's side. Very, I think it's impetuous. Do I have that mixed? Define impetuous. I want to make sure I'm using the correct word. Yeah. Impetuous. Enjoying play by post, but the game is long. One shot will take a few months. Incredible immersion. Yeah. Yeah, and it depends on how long. How long is a post? What are you talking about? Wayne says, AMA, 3 things you like about 5e. I like that I know it. The rules. Yeah. Low-hanging fruit. You asked. I think it's relatively intuitive. It's one of the better iterations of D&D. There, I said it. I have said it before. I say it again. Of D&D. And it's the biggest edition of D&D there's ever been. I don't know. What I like about it, I would say those things. It could still be old D&D. And it's not 4th. I was not a big fan of 4th. But Sean, you never played it. Fair. So it's got ascending armor class. Victor, I can't do play by post. I'll just write a story instead. Hey yo. It's not for everybody. Hoos, Delta Green as headquarter spook, play by post with field reports and maybe directing field agents in real time. Yeah, there is something about Delta Green and play by post. Like that's probably what I would run if I did play by post. It's a good system to do it. There's not a lot of transaction thing that goes back and forth, and it's kind of real world. You could I don't know. Some people don't like that. That's okay. I'll play solo over play by post. Oh, really? Well, I get it. You are not a fan. I know that, Dorigo. You've made that known. Play by post. I don't understand why anybody would play that thing. Noted. Roman, maybe you're just just like your father, too bold. Maybe I'm just like my mother. She's never satisfied, right? Is that what? She's never satisfied? I don't know. I think I hear doves cry. That's all. Keep it eye level. Yeah. Delta Green, man. So much stuff. The agents don't even know if they're working for a legit org if you play a particular way. That's just crazy. I mean, you could have all kinds of fun stuff. You gotta have players that, trust the game master in that. The game master's not intentionally screwing with you all the time. It's just the way the world is. Kill those doves. Is that darlings? Oh, in your play by post. This is what it's like. Doves cry. Yeah. Don't you guys have games to run today? I really wanted to get to Gary Con at least for a day. That's not going to happen. That sucks. Oh well. The thing is it will ruin my chances if I get COVID and come back. You can forget Gamehole Con. So I'm going to try to hold out to Gamehole Con and say, hey, should be good. And then get it there. Kelly, I'm about to get started with a play-by-post COM. COM. Help me out. COM. In addition to a live Discord game of the same system. What? COM. Help. Help. Kelly. Here comes Augie. Coming more for treats. Yeah. All right. Kelly, help me out. What's COM? I know there's a little lag, so. Do. All right. Well, City of Mist. That's right. I saw that you were talking about that. Yeah. Okay. City of Mist. All right. I'm going to go. My job is done here. Do me a favor. Some of those guys might have bolted and didn't give us a like, but if you're here, do me a favor. Hit the thumb button. Do the right thing. Subscribe if you are so inclined. But next thing, I think, for me would be Monday night streaming on Gaming MBS YouTube channel, gamingmbs.com/YouTube, 8 p.m. Central Time, U.S., talking about Vaesen. Get Brett's take and my take on it. That's probably what I'll do Sunday. Just probably read much of the book, maybe even today. Yeah, and I think that's all I've got left before we stream again here next Saturday. What else was I going to say? I think that's it. That's all I got. What am I doing? Remember, it is not POS. It is positive force in tabletop RPGs. B1. I'll check you guys later. Have a good weekend. Keep on gaming. Stay well. We'll see you later.